Okay, give thanks for life. We're back and alive for another Tru Mon show with Mr. Arthur and Madame Fiona. How are you?
Very good.
Yeah, we're well, thank you.
Good.
We're drinking smoothies. We're having green smoothies. We're running late.
It's necessary to keep a good health. It's the primary thing if we want to go around and keep speaking truth. We got to be healthy.
You know what it also is? Do you know what it also is? Keeping your health. It's the ultimate rebellion, because actually those in control do not want us healthy, because it's when we're healthy that we think better, we think more clearly, we're fitter, we're stronger. They love us to be addicted to the cigarettes, to the booze, to the drugs, to the pharmaceuticals. They love that. So all these poor young kids who grow up thinking to rebel is to go and smoke and take drugs. They're actually doing exactly what the authorities want them to do, because it keeps them stupid, dumbed down, distracted, and all that sort of thing.
Low vibration, that's what they want.
Keeping your body really fit and strong and your brain really clear is the ultimate rebellion.
Yeah, that includes being ego-centered and self-centered. They love all that. They love people to go out in the streets and march and protest and all this stuff. They love all that stuff because it just shows you how weak we are. Yeah. Please fix our problems. Please fix that. Yeah. Look, this is why in the free man movement, people write to people. Who are you writing to? If you're a man, why are you writing to someone else? No one's your master. Why are you asking someone else to fix your problems? Just change your life, change your attitude, take responsibility, stop giving your power away. Please fix us. Oh, please improve our cell conditions. Please change it from grey to pink. Please do something to make our lives a bit better.
That's what everybody asks, but that's not working this way. We have to do the work, because now we're in a mess, and we're realizing what kind of mess we're in. And we have said a lot of things last week. A lot of things have been spoken and written and on Facebook and everywhere. I've been following a bit what happened with the repercussion of our discussion. It was very positive. It's not that, but some people are very, very stuck, and I was there myself. Okay, I'm not judging everybody here. It's my own experience that I share here online, but I was stuck in the paradigm for a long thing, and I finally let go this week, and I'm going to explain you how I finally let go. And I understood in what kind of mess I was myself, and what kind of programming I was. So, this whole journey, I'm on a one-way journey, that's for sure, because I want to know the honest truth, and the honest truth is about myself first. I want to know who I am. Because the conspiracy is against me, to keep me quiet, to poison me that much, to do all this harm to my soul, to my being. The conspiracy is against us. So to look outside of ourselves, like the flat earth and stuff like that, yes, it's okay to expose the lies, but we cannot lose ourselves into it, because at one point that's what's happening to certain people. And also, we've been intellectualizing everything we have seen. I've been doing that all my life. I think we intellectualize way too much stuff, and intellectualize things to be able to analyze the truth. Because if you intellectualize the things you're seeing, you're putting forms, color, and everything you've been taught. Because to know the truth, like you said, and I read a lot of your stuff, and I tried to make sense of it all week, making videos in French on my other channel, which I told you. And the sense that I made of it is that to know the truth, you have to go back in a baby state, and look at the world, a state of deep sleep, and look at the world. And then you will look at the sun, and you will not associate a disc or a ball or whatever. You will just be amazed at the sun. And that's why they say the people that are awakening or awake are in state of constant amazement. I know why now. I didn't know why before, but I know why now. Because you look at things and you don't intellectualize things. So right there, you're free. You're free of a lot of the program.
Crib and Mama, get me out of here! Shaking that crib, shaking the cot. The baby. Spit the dummy out. I don't want the dummy. I'm a man already. Stop messing with my headspace.
Exactly. But that's what's that. And I understood your whole thing also about the man, and to go back to the original dream, and that's, they want to kill the dream. They kill it pretty good. So far, not too many people are living their dreams or living the dream of life or contributing to the dream of life, because it's to contribute all together. And anyway, there's all kinds of stuff we can start to talk about, but the main thing, my message that I understood from your work is, we should stop intellectualizing everything we see, because this is where we get lost, because this is where the program takes place. The vocabulary, 1, 2, 3, ABC, all this goes in your head, and you interpret things with that after. So how do you want mentally, if you interpret things with ABC 1, 2, 3? Hello, you want to be free with that? I'm looking for truth. I don't want to. I don't want to have to use ABC 1, 2, 3 to look for truth. I'm not. I shouldn't have to. I should just go outside and first party, look at the sun and be amazed at the sun. It's even that, I wouldn't say it's a sun. I would probably see it as a living entity, which I see it now. I look outside at this thing shining in the sky. Now all the words, now I'm being careful of the words I use to. I look at that thing and I see it as a living entity. And I was also reflecting on the moon and all that stuff. The moon could also, like you were saying, the dark side of the moon, I understood that also. The dark side of the moon is there, but only in our head. There's no dark side of the moon. Once, that's how I interpret it. Because the moon is a living entity also, so why would there be a dark side? They try to make us believe there's a darkness, but I don't think there's even a dark side of the moon. You know what I mean? She's alive, just like, I don't know. I'm trying to make sense of all that.
Yeah, we're dealing with man's intent. You see, let's go with what you shared here. Let's go back to what was shared in the previous video. Imagine the dream of life is a bubble, and there's the creator holding the dream of life in its hand. This is an analogy, a lineal analogy, right? Just to make an example of this. And all the information of the dream of life is in that bubble. Now, it's still not alive. It has no life. So the creator comes into the bubble and breathes its intent. And its intent is its willpower, setting into motion everything of the intent, which is the purpose of the cow, the purpose of the tree, it's the purpose of the wind. So everything is in motion according to the will of the creator who dreamt it. So when you look at a tree, when you look at a bird, you're sensing the intention of the dreamer, the original dreamer of the dream of life, the creator, right? Now, there's the creator in paradise, amongst its creation, standing in paradise, dreams for a companion and creates another man. Now, this man's gifted with the whole intention of the dream of life. Here, my son, this is yours. It's all yours. I give it all to you. And so this man senses the intention of the creator in the wind. It feels the intention in the wind, in the song of the birds, in the waves, in the insects and the creatures. It senses it in everything. You see? So and the thing is, it feels it. It's not intellectualized. It's what we feel. It's our consciousness. And then this man dreams and creates and adds and paints and does what the man dreams for the dream of life, and it creates another man. It creates another companion and does it. You see? So we have fallen from this. Along the way, one of our brothers fell from this, created another dream with another intention, and says, oh, that's a daffodil, it's yellow. Oh, that's a moon, and there's a dark side, da-da-da. Now, we are supposed to connect, as children brought up in nature, we are supposed to connect with the original intention of the living creator that we are all part of, that we are. And in doing that, we sense the purpose of everything. But this man created another dream, so that now we're learning, we've been trained to disconnect from feeling the intention of everything that lives, as the mountains and the whales and the dolphins, you name it. And now we are expressing this other dream, and in disconnecting, we're bringing darkness, because the darkness is our loss of connection to the true purpose of the dream of life. So we don't know who we are anymore, and that's the darkness. We've lost our connection, right? Because we don't feel anymore. We're in our bloody heads. Now, here's another example of this. This is happening to people around us. Imagine building a house. Now, a house requires screws. Now, the screws or the nails, they involve other men and women because they're all involved in factories, and they're involved in administration. They're involved in transport trucks. They're involved in digging the mountains and creating the minerals. They're involved in the government and the bureaucracy of the government and the banks, because the banks provided money and they're administrating the money. The government's providing the taxation and the laws. The courts are providing all the laws for this man who is going to use a screw to build his house, to build a house. There's all these people involved just for one screw. Now, it's not just a screw or the nail. Now we're talking about hammers, drills, jackhammers, saws. Now, all this is the same thing. It involves a lot of people. And then you've got the architect who draws the house. Now, that architect, he's gone to university. He has all these people inside his head. He's been trained. He's gone and read books and magazines of all the other drawings and pictures that he's seen. So there's a lot of people in his head too. And then there's the guy who bought the land. Now, he bought the land. He's got the land titles office. He's got the government, all the rules and regulations and everything else that come with it. So there's all these people in this guy's life too. And then he's got his dream for the house he's building on this land. And how many people are there in this man's head, in the carpenter's head, to pick up a screw, to pick up a piece of wood and cut it, to lay concrete down on the ground, to build the foundations, right? Now, the system is this, because it takes a team effort of brainwashed people to create the system. But it also takes a team effort of brothers and sisters to co-create paradise too. So they're two different dreams using all of us. One uses all of us for the great dream, where we don't harm and we connect with the true purpose, and there's no dark side of the moon and all that. But there's another one where there is the dark side of the moon, because we are those robots in the programming that makes us do what we do to build this house. And the house we build is the system. And the whole foundations and everything come out of it, which is the education system and the university and all the courses and careers and all the titles and standings and race, culture, creed. All this is bullshit. It's garbage, right? But the thing is, we are so conditioned to listening to the intellect. But behind the intellect is the demonic possession, because this gets into another subject, maybe not today, maybe another, maybe we'll see where it goes, where we get into bloodletting and blood libel, because they're inside the thoughts of ABC 1, 2, 3 that forms the constructs and concepts of this language that we talk, which is the language of darkness. It's the language of disconnection from the heart of creation. It's our fallen state where we've removed ourselves from reality and we're in fantasy. It's here that the intention of those to control us have kidnapped children, have kidnapped men and women and ritually tortured them. And they bring them to the point of death. And I won't go too far into this, but there are some pictures you can see in Darkness Visible Part 5. There's a link we'll put up in this video, Darkness Visible Part 5. And you see all these various photos that come from a long time ago. And you see in some of there's 4 men, one with looks like a straw implement that's piercing the heart of the victim. It's going into the heart. Another man is holding the victim down. Another man has got the choking implement around the man's neck. And then you have another man who's singing a song. And what they are collectively doing is capturing the trauma of their intention through the broken will of their victim. They have to break the will of the victim. So what they do, they take them to the inch of death. Then they release it to let them come back to consciousness. Then they start it again until they break the will. And so when that will is broken, that last breath, they capture it. They take the blood, they drip the blood out of them. And that blood is where they write the ABC 1, 2, where they form this dead language. And so this intention is used to educate our children with. We call it English. We call it other read and write alphabet languages. And here, this is why when you taught about police officer, police car, and then you see this police car with the lights flashing, You're compelled emotionally. You're reacting, going, oh, authority, right? Or a piece of paper comes in the mail, which is a piece of paper saying you owe us $300 for the electricity. You're going, oh, now you are compelled to perform. You're reacting. You're a robot. Now, imagine building a robot with the purpose to do what you want it to do. You still can't do anything without giving it the software program to turn the robot on to get it to do all the things you want it to do. So you put the software program in, turn the robot on, and it starts doing everything. Well, these people who did the blood libel and bloodletting created a software program for man, which is the intellectualizing of our heads. And we set this into motion because it compels us to perform the functions, what makes us a slave, a drone, robot in the system. And this is what has disconnected us completely from who we really are, because we don't have a single dream that we've created, because it's their dreams and we've taken it on, you see?
Yeah.
So
this week, Arthur, I really realized how deep it's not even the rabbit. It's a satanic world. I realized how satanic it was this week, but I never thought that, because I did work on myself and I read and I made sense of it, and everything matched. It's a really satanic world. And there's also something I was asking myself the other day is, why? What is it that keep us from thinking about it? From what happened to me? Because now I'm doing an introspection. What happened to me? Because I only found it at 40 years old. So what happened? Why did I not search it before? Because there was an inculcation in process, ongoing on myself, and I never seen it until yesterday. I never seen it. It was still there. Now I decide to detach from it. It's not there because I. Huh?
Well, that inculcation that's over us is also when you talk about looking at things through the eyes of a child now, and how you see how amazing it is. That process of intellectualization that we're taught is also what enables us to justify and talk away all the harm that we see. I mean, you come out with the eyes of a child and start looking at the harm that's around. It's horrendous. You know, the car is a death machine, and most of the food is, and yet we think it's food. We think going to McDonald's is food. It's not, it's death. And that intellectualization is what enables us to justify destroying the mountains, chopping down the forests. And, oh yeah, we know that chopping down half the Amazon is going to destroy everything for, you know, the atmosphere and everything. But hey, we want the timber, or we want the fields to graze the cattle so everyone can eat their meat. You know, it's just that process keeps us removed from the harm, as well as keeping us removed from the sense of what we're really part of and how amazing it is.
Exactly. Everything. That's why also when you came out and said that Eric Dubé Flat Earth was a psyop, I read the whole thing, and really, I'm sorry, but it kind of makes sense, because this is what they want you to do. They want you to be really in your head, and intellectualize everything. That's why when my friend Ivar always told me, he said, Yannick, it's not about the shape. There's no shape. Okay, why you tell me that, Ivar? You see, all this made sense for me this week because I met you. So everything, it makes sense. That's why everything that I've been told in the past by Ivar, by Jabba, I accumulate all this, and yeah, there's no shape, because the shape, it's only in your head. It's what,
exactly.
It's what you've been taught to. I'm not saying that it's round, but if you go back to your original state, you have no form in your head. You don't know what's a rectangle, or you don't know what's a circle. Or all this are stuff they put in your head to program your brain.
And also, they're getting wholly involved in any enclosure like Flat Earth means you're spending time on that and researching and talking and discussing, and you're not actually doing something real to create a change in how you live and how everybody can live.
Well, now, Eric Dubé is very clever. He's offering the manipulation of how you can learn to have freedom from the oppression in the system, but he doesn't offer the big picture. Eric Dubé and all the intelligence networks, they give you something very close to the truth, but they don't give you the big picture. They keep you lost in the measurements. We'll go into this later. I'd love to go into. I just want to go back just things that you were just talking about before. Yeah. The word intellectualize. Let's look at it. Intelligence, intellectual, intel is intel operatives. Then you got intellect, let them, intellect. Then you got eyes, lies, intellectual lies, as in television, the learning to visualize, right? These are phonetics and etymology. Just think of these words, right? I'm not saying this is correct, but I'm just giving you a sense of this. Intellectual lies, but you got the you in there. Intellectual lie, intellectual, you lies. So what we're talking about here is taking the dream of another man, which is that man's intention, for you to live out of that dream. So that is the program you put in a robot that compels you to perform. So when we talk ABC, it is that we are compelled to perform the creation of the system through the English language. That's why they called English the New World Language back in their records of the 1100s, because when they first crafted English out of Hebrew, when they brewed it, they already planned. Now, the Norman conquest of Great Britain, of Britain, is the Canaanites. These Canaanites are these, the Magi, the Sandringham. These are the occultists of the times of Jesus. They weren't Jews. They were the fucking occultists. The occultists hated Jesus. The occultists hated Buddha. The occultists hated all the true men because they exposed all the occultic practices. They were revealing the deception of this stuff. This is what we're about. This is what many of it. We're no bloody leaders or messiahs or saviors. We're just waking up to this nonsense, this bullshit tactics that they use on us. But the point I'm trying to get at is that the Jews of today are basically used and abused and manipulated. Their history, really changed around the 1500s, and it's another subject which we're not going to go into today. But they're not the Jews that they put in the book, because the letter J didn't even exist till roughly 1520 in the English language. The letter J was first used by Francis Bacon, alias William Shakespeare, alias Francis Bacon. And the letter J, maybe the first time the letter J was ever used was in the word Jew. Now, when we use words like Judeo, Judaic, and things like that, it means occultists. These are the practicing occultists. They are the masters of black magic. They are the ringleaders of sorcery. What they do, they are the ones who create dreams and get their victims to become caught up in the dreams, to get them to set them into motion so they perform the dream, so they become in the dream. So Alice in Wonderland is their creation. The English language is their creation. You get man inside these dreams, and then you make them believe that that's who they are. Man, you're going to get them to create the world that you want them to create. So that's why we say in our work, slaves willingly create a world in their master's image without realizing, right? If I can get you to think what I want you to think, say if I was one of those occultists, if I get you to think what I want you to think, put these pictures in your head and get you to accept that reality, the daffodil is yellow, I can get you to perform my intention through you. So I can control your will because you've accepted my intention on you. So I'm now using your will to further the intention, right, of what I planned for you. So you're in my image now. I've got you. You're my robot. And all these intelligences, they are the shepherds. They're the fishermen that capture the fish. When we read the old Bibles and you talk about their nets and catching fish, this is what it is. This is how they do it. They're Pied Pipers. So if you believe what they put in your bloody head and you set that into motion, you will create the world that they've designed for you to create, right? And that's what a robot is. That's what robots do. The robots carry out the program of whatever it is that's been designed for you to create. Now, this is at the heart of everything that is the system. So if we don't lose focus on this, you get back to the reason why it's happening is because brothers and sisters were tortured and ritually abused, murdered, to capture the soul, to capture the broken will, so that when the sounds come out of your mouth of A, B, C, and all the constructs and concepts that are the sentences, we form these words into sentence, because it is a sentence. We are sentenced. And it's a prison. We are in the prison of the matrix.
They call it a sentence.
It's a sentence.
Yeah.
I never thought of that one.
Okay, and then when you look, this is intentionally done, and you can read his story, her story, which we got. You'll find the links on our website. His story, her story is history, and history is the dream of the man intention recorded through their recorded ages, right? So all history is in his image. And so all the civilizations were created in his image. And all of it bear the lie, right? And remember this, a lie is destruction. Lie is to commit death, because it is turning away from the original intention of the dream of life. We are learning, we've been trained not to connect with the true purpose of why the tree exists, why the bird exists, why everything exists of nature, why the river runs, why the wind does what it does. We've lost that connection. And because of that, we are committing death and destruction, because we believe the lie that is that shit put in our heads of that intention of another man that sets us into motion to become the armies that invaded all the tribes across earth. Look at the conquistadors. How do you say that word? Conquistadors. She was Spanish. She can speak Spanish, this girl. But anyway, long story cut short is that they went there and decimated all these tribes, right? Just like I said about Pol Pot in the last video. So all these people were carrying the Bible, doing the work of God. You know, look, we all know that the Bible is being the medium of immense genocide everywhere. And people think they're saying, we're doing God's work. We're doing God's work. No, we're doing the intention of the grand architect, the man who dreamt this idea. They're in their image and they're carrying out the emotional motion. Emotion is the compelling program of the robot. In this case, a man who's disconnected from reality, and that man only sees what he sees. So when you see a police officer, he only sees the statutes and the laws, or what makes John Smith the police officer. So when he sees you, the man, he doesn't see the man. He only sees the statutes and the programming of the English language that defines what he's looking at. So you're not even on his radar. Who you are is not on his radar. What's on his radar is the one he's putting there about the statutes and laws he's superimposed over you. The daffodil is yellow. When you see that life form, you're superimposing the daffodil is yellow over that life form. When the police officer sees you, they don't see you. They're superimposing the inculcation, the ritual of death to man, because they're committing murder to you. They're performing the ritual of disconnection from who you are. So when you go to their court, they don't see you. They're trained not to see you. You're not there. What's there is the inculcation that is the program of the robot. So when they ask you for your name, are you such and such? And you say, yes, well, you've just committed the original sin again. You're repeating. And so all their world and all their laws and statutes, everything comes upon you because you've accepted it. You've accepted their world, their law, everything that comes with it, right? So the lie is death, is destruction to the dream of life, the living dream, because we've lost our ability to feel and sense. Now, remember this, something else. Again, don't believe what I'm saying. Use scrutiny. Every man that was created as an original man is in the wind right now. It's in the trees. It's in everything, because everything we're experiencing of reality was created by all our ancestors who were the embodiment of the living dream. They lived the living dream. They didn't intellectualize anything. So when you connect, you're connecting with your true living ancestors, and they whisper to you through your intuition, your sense. You're not alone. When you feel things, you're feeling more than just who you think you are, because who we are does not end at the surface of our skin. Our consciousness is the whole of the dream of life. Just as the Creator came and breathed this life, and its presence is everywhere in the dream of life. There's nowhere the presence of the Creator is not in the dream of life. So the intention of everything, through what we sense, through what we feel, is every man who was that, who lived that. And that presence is still present to us now. It's in present sense. It's in eternal present sense. We have been trained to disconnect from this, so we can't feel. So there could be tens of thousands, using lineal analogies again, there could be tens of thousands or millions of brothers and sisters of real man whispering to us as a team effort right now, all the time. But we have lost that connection. We don't listen anymore. We're not calm enough to feel it. Our heads are so spinning with all the ghetto blast of white noise between the ears of this satanic inculcation programs that they put us, because we have to recall, memorize. So we got to remember ABC to talk this English satanic language. That's already shutting us down, because we're not able to sense while we're talking this language. Well, we can, but we're going to have to learn how to overcome it. So
You know what I said? What I said also is the other day I was thinking and talking about the language and why they put that in our. And I was like, okay, very often all the animals, they don't have language to communicate in between each other. They just often make sounds or they look at each other. And I can often do that with another human being. I can just look at them and we understand each other. So why do we need that? Oh, what would have happened if we didn't came under this spell with that language? Do you think we would have been like just communicating by normal or original ways? Like, what's the original ways of communicating?
Well, we've forgotten, but the thing with language.
Good question, Good question.
It is so inefficient, you know, our language. Look how many misunderstandings there are between people and miscommunication because the language is getting in the way of the sense of things. So people take offense at something that wasn't meant to be offensive, and so they're not feeling the intention of what's coming at them, and it's usually all their stuff, all their projection that makes them take offense. And you know, when you look at the animals, we've got 2 dogs, and I've seen them many times. They come together, a couple of sniffs, and they have gathered all the information they need from each other about one's been there, and it's just, and they don't. We have to sit there and explain for a few paragraphs to be able to get something as basic as that across that they can do in a few seconds, like 2 seconds, literally. So yeah, absolutely. I think we would have been, whether we had sound or song or what, but we would just look at each other and we've just sucked in all that information. It's like, you know, when sometimes you really, it's when you feel something, it's like an intense upload of information in a fraction of a second compared to when you have to think about something and read it and to take it in. When you work with that sense, you know, and you suddenly get a feeling of you've comprehended everything.
That's
like
what happened. That's what happened to me on the side of the river this week. I was sitting and I was like, okay, what's happening now? And I made sense of all that in a flash of a second. And I was on my, I said, I got to say it. I got to share it. So I should, but yeah, we got to make sense of the reality. And this is what people are really disconnected. But I thought I was connected, but I was still disconnected up. I'm sure I'm going to find out more because I go where the truth takes me. And that's what a lot of people are not willing to do. They're going to go where the truth goes, but they want to know the truth outside of themselves, but not about themselves. That's what a lot of people are scared about, that it's how powerful they are beyond measure. That's what they're afraid of. Not that they can endorse something. It's we're always afraid of how powerful you are. So imagine to know the truth about yourself. A lot of people don't want to go down there. I never heard the stuff you're saying. I never heard it from any flat earther, researcher, whatever that's out there exposing the psyop of the flat earth, ball earth, whatever. I never heard the stuff you're saying. So there's something, there's a cover-up somewhere. You know, the people that handle the truth like that, the one that are closest to the truth tell the more lies. And they're going to make sure that you're trapped inside the head and that they're not going to give you tools to get out the system without this evil stuff you have in your head.
You know, and it's also, yes, I agree that people are scared of how powerful they are, but they're also scared to really look at themselves and see how shitty we all are, because how we behave to each other, how we behave to Earth, and to even to our children and to everything is horrible. It's despicable.
It's disgusting. That's what
and that is the one thing as well. People, a lot of it's love to talk about the truth there, and look who's doing this, and look who's doing that, and this conspiracy. But when it comes to actually turning around and facing the real demon inside that makes us behave in this horrible way, it's very, very confronting. And you've got to be really determined that this is what you want and that you want to get to the truth, no matter how painful it is to look in the mirror and really see what it is that we all do and how we behave and the lies that we all tell day in, day out about this. And then we wonder why our children tell lies.
Even
you know, and
that.
we all bully each other, and then we wonder why our children are bullies at school. You know, it's like they just suck up everything that we do, and we see it, but they're more open about it. And so we're just seeing our shit reflected in.
Well, there's that true language when we suck everything up. When a dog comes and sniffs you, and that first sniff already knows everything about you. When the dog sniffs more and more, it's sniffing everything about you. This is why we say to people when they ring us up, well, come over and smell our ass and we'll smell yours. We'll get to know each other, right? Because that's the true language. Talking and talking, all this talking we've been doing for 10 years has done literally nothing for most people, right? It was only those who made sense and started to create their living dream, meaning they started letting go of the prison that was holding them down, the ego, the E-go. When they learned to ignore this and start to listen to their conscience, they're listening to all their ancestors around them. They're listening to the living creator that's already with them now, the God everyone worships. It's not a God to worship, it's a living creation, and we are the full embodiment. We're not separated. In the Eric Dubai thing that we put up, which is, again, we're going to add more to it maybe later on after this chat. We're going to try and finish this thing. We're going to add another section to it. We called it Eric Dubai's Flat Earth is a Cult. So I'll send you that link and you can put that up as well, because we talk about measurements and what the Freemasons do, what this satanic thing is all about. When they created ABC 1, 2, 3 and used the ritual, the bloodletting, when they captured the blood of the dying, broken children, this is why so many still die today. They keep this up. All their rituals is to keep this ego, this trauma, because the E-go, ecclesiastical is E, is the high priests of Freemasonry who are telling us to be the robots in their image, to carry out the world they dream for us. And so that's what an E-go is. So when we are trying to memorize, we are holding the collection house of everything that comes out of ABC 1, 2, 3 in an illusory state of imagining. And this collection is the ego. We form the ego and we give it a name and we call it Arthur. And this Arthur enters into the system of the collection house of all the explanations that define the system for us, right? And so we live our whole life talking the language through the ego, right? Controlled by the emotion, the E-motion, because the motion is what compels us to perform. I hear the clock. Oh, it's nearly a quarter. I've got to get up. I've got to get to work by 9. That's emotion for the ego, for the slave. So the whole system is like a shadow of, or like a complete reflection of nature. But it's not real, because you see, when children are brought up by nature without this stuff in the kid's head, the ancestors, that is the wind, that is the sunlight, that is the birds singing to them. The ancestors are singing to them right now, because that's what the bird is. It's the song of man. Because the living creator that set its life into motion is that. And we are connecting with the living song. Now, as we said before in the other video, there's no beginning to this bubble. There's no outside or inside to this bubble. It's always been. There's never ever been a beginning to life. It's never been a beginning to man, the living creation of life. And this is breaking away from the lineal brainwashing, the finite concepts of measurements. See, so when they trained us into ABC 1, 2, 3, they were forming measurements, which are explanations. The explanations is the name. So when you go to a supermarket, the supermarket is called Aldi, right? That's a name. It defines what Aldi is. But inside Aldi, there's shelves and shelves and rows and rows and rows of definitions of this product and that product. It's all under the name. So we're inside a name of many names, full of explanation. So each time we go to something, it's like an explosion of information. And we call it Kellogg's cornflakes, right? Or we call it peanut butter. And inside that name, there's a lot of information. But it's come from another man who defined that for you. Okay, so let's go back now. Outside of the supermarket, you've got road maps, street street numbers. It's all defined for you. You've been given a world to enter into to perform your ego under the name, because your name was explained to you. Arthur is Greek. Arthur was born in Sydney in the Crown Street Women's Hospital. Arthur was born on the 21st of August, 1957 at 7 minutes past 6 or whatever, right? Arthur's mother's name's Antula. Arthur's father's name is William, you know. No, it goes on and on for all of us. There's a whole his story. of the ego that defines us and the ancestry of that. And we carry that as the robot ego in the emotion of being raised up in the education system where Arthur's going to become trained in something that Arthur's good at to further a career and an interest in the system, right? Until Arthur's death certificate is put in place that life is dead and buried, because the birth certificate introduced us into that world and the death certificate ended it. And the whole time we live between it is where we've accepted the authority of the Freemasons, the high priests, the E of the emotion, the E of the ego, as our authorites. Remember, authority, authorite is a rite. A rite is a ritual. It's a satanic inculcation program. We carry out these rites. That's why it's right, R-I-G-H-T. That's why it's right, W-R-I-T-E. That's why it's right. As in, what's the other one? The third one? There's three of them.
R-I-T-E.
R-I-T-E, yeah. The third one is the R-I-T-E, the right. So there are these factors is what defines the illusion of the matrix, which is the collection house of everything we have rememorized, that we're memorizing, that defines who we are. So we carry with us the his story, and that whole his story of all that collective information of nonsense, because it's nonsense, you can't censor it, is our ego. And it's a phantom, it's an apparition, it's a demon. And it hoods us, as in priesthood, childhood, brotherhood. We've been hooded by the demon of our own projection. We are the ones creating it, and we are in its image, because that is the dream of these priests who intended for us to be that way. And that's why they educated us. So when I talked about in the last video, the unidentified floating objects, which is these ships coming from the 11, 12, 13, 14, 1500s of their recorded ages, across the waters to these lands where man had never seen these ships before. And they're going, whoa, what are these UFOs, you know? And then these weird hats come off with weird things, and they get canoes and they're rowing over on their rowboats, and one comes out and starts talking Hebrew to the man on the land and says, "Good day, I'm Admiral Bligh. I'm from Great Britain. Our Queen is Queen Victoria or something, and I represent the British Empire, and we offer you the Westminster system of government. And we've come to conduct a census amongst your people to see whether we can introduce Medicare and introduce banking and all this stuff, right?" Now, I know this didn't happen that way, but I'm just giving you the stupidity of the gobbledygook, because this language is unfamiliar to the man on the land, because it doesn't come from the trees. The trees did not teach this language to the man. The song of the wind, the song of everything created, did not teach man this, right? So it goes right over the head of all the tribes of man on the land. It's gobbledygook, Martian talk, alien. That's why we have this alien movies today, and science fictions and Star Wars and all this stuff going. It's the same shit. Exactly the same psyop programs used by these idiots to try to make us think that, that there's something much more to us than what we're part of. So bringing it all back to measurement.
Also, just to bring one point, Archer, I'm going to say it properly, Archer. My wife gave me shit all week for calling you Archer.
Your intention to recognize this man is what matters, not the bloody sand comes out of your mouth.
It's the intention, my intention. So, but also I was sitting near the river and I'm like, okay, what the heck is going on? Why do we have this illusion? Also, Jabba always told me it's black magic out there, you too, and all that. And, to keep the illusion, you need magician. You need magician. And I was thinking of the judge being a magistrat en français, magistrat, which is a magician. But they're all magicians, all the one with coats, eh? They perform the black magic too. In that satanic incultation. It's crazy. It's crazy. No one see it. It's really
they're all the
crazy.
ones who hated the great man long ago. They're now called Jesus. They twisted the story. The letter S and Z interchangeable. Zeus means one world government. The Greek gods of the system is the system itself. The same with all the Egyptian gods. So you'll find these same gods all through the Mayas, Aztecs, Incas. You'll find all the same thing. You'll see it all. That's what we talked about in the previous video. Let's go back to measurements. What I'm talking about here is ABC 123 defines our illusional reality. It defines the fairy tale world that we're in. Now, the way to look at it again is like Alice in Wonderland. Little Mary is us, the living. And Mum opens up the book and we sit on Mum's lap and we're innocent. We're listening to Mum, and Mum starts reading Alice in Wonderland to us. And through the practice, because practice is a cult, right? And we perfect this craft because Mum's innocently practicing black magic on us. So we're looking at pictures, defining the fantasy world. And so our imagining is evoked to such an extent that after practicing a few times, we go to the bedroom where already there's so much magical stuff in the bedroom because we've got toys, towels, robots, and clothing. And so we dress ourselves up as Alice and we start to turn the bedroom into Wonderland. And we start to act out the story, or we do it to the house itself. We can move the furniture around and set up all the props of the stage, and we enter the stage as Alice to perform the ritual of that inculcation, right? The whole time we're in the fantasy. Now, this is exactly where we are in the English language with the name we use that has all the interests that are going in your head. Is this Alice in Wonderland that you perform, that we all perform in the system through the language of Wonderland? So here's how it works. Little Mary is present with the presence of life. We can sense Little Mary. We can touch, taste, feel, smell. Here's Little Mary. Right? Little Mary is present. The reality of Little Mary doesn't need any explanation for me to sense Little Mary. I can go and see Little Mary time I want to, and her creation, who she is there before my senses, before my eyes. Right. But all the time Little Mary performs as Alice is a lie. If Fiona was Little Mary and she says to me, Alice is real, Fiona's committing fraud. She's lying to me. Because she can't bring forward Alice in first party. So I can hear this directly from Alice and not from Fiona acting as an expert commentator, as a third party representative, right? Because Alice is not present with the presence of life. So Little Mary, Fiona, has to represent Alice to me. And so if I don't catch the deception of this fraud, I can accept that Alice is in first party through Fiona because I've accepted Fiona as Alice, right? Here's the thing. Fiona could be a police officer or a doctor, could be a surgeon, could be a judge, a politician. Now she can act as if the first party authority, the author rights, these practices of this author, because the author is the one who made up the story, all right? So if you look at the system the same way and go back to the screws and nuts and bolts of building the house and all that, you see how this unfolds. And we get so lost in his story of the storytelling.
I see how this unfolds in the Vatican with a guy representing God, or is God, their God, or whatever.
So when we explain what God is, we're lying, we're committing fraud. When we explain what freedom is, we're lying, because that's not your freedom. That's just an idea of what we think freedom is put in your head. And if you dance with the idea in your head, you're under an inculcation. You're under my satanic practice. I've got you. Now, the practice is when lawyers, they're in practice. They practice. That's why they're liars. It's a practice. It's a craft. So what you've got to look at here is that the whole system is black magic, but they don't give you full disclosure of how it works. They take you very close to the truth because they say, that's a daffodil, it's yellow. Or she says to me, Fiona says to me, I'm Alice. Right? Now, she's brought me very close to the truth because here's Fiona. I can experience her. But if I don't rat out the lie, I will accept that her Alice is part of the truth.
Yeah.
And that will destroy me. You see? So if I go to the life form and don't rat out the bullshit, the nonsense of the daffodil is yellow, I will accept the lie of the matrix superimposed over the life form because I'm the one projecting it. Because I'm under the hood of the priesthood. I'm under their image power. Their intention to dictate me, to control me, where my will has been broken, to be used as my free will. I think it's my free will, but my will's been broken because I'm accepting another man's intention to control my purpose, my life. And that's why they gave me a birth certificate, why they gave me a name, why they defined you know, my status in life, and you know, and what I can do with this life. They determined, or they predetermined, the prophecy of all of this. So my life was already a prophecy in fulfillment through the whole time that I performed in the ritual.
It's very important to hijack the children young, like you were saying.
Very, very young, because that's the way you get them. That's why they conquered all the tribe, getting back to the Pol Pot. They decimate everybody, bring the trauma in, and then bring all the good guys off the back, so who come to correct the damage of the bad guys, but leave them with an explained reality. So all the Cambodians now brought up in Cambodia are in the education of the explanation that defines what a Cambodian is and defines the land that the man is on. And from that, the illusion of the matrix unfolds. Now, this is what they did when these ships came to all the lands. They put everyone through this kind of ritual, right? And then they recorded in their history books to maintain the power of their world. See, you go to a judge now on this land, they've only been here in terms of their records only a couple hundred years, but they act as if they are the power that's been here forever. They think that their power is eternal. It's a fucking bunch of wankers, a bunch of fucking idiots, these people. They're fucking nothing. They've hardly been here. A scratch, you know, they are like a tiny white ant to Mount Everest. This tiny little nothing. And this is why I'm saying to you, their lie, because it is destruction. If you put your finger and your thumb together, just get a bit of light through it. That's the progress of civilization. That's as far as they can take everything that they do in the matrix, because they have no options. Their lie is so limited. When you're working from your consciousness, it's beyond, it's unlimited in capacity. So going back to measurement.
That's why it's important to murder your soul before you realize that. You know, they don't want people like me to do what I'm doing, start thinking. They don't want us to think.
Exactly.
We by them performing the ritual when they do these satanic rituals, and they put that straw into the heart, and they put this Egyptian implement around the neck, and they choke them, and they take them to their death. It is the broken will, where one man's will or four men's will is dominating the will of the child or the man, or whether it's a backpacker that was kidnapped, or whether it was a horse or a goat or animal. That's why so many people go missing, because they've got to keep using the breath of the fallen to continue putting it out. Because remember, we are the original man that dreamt the dream of life, breathed its life into the dream of life, into that lineal analogy. Its breath, its first breath, is present everywhere. And then another breath is added to that, and then another breath, and another breath, and another breath. And then that creator created a companion, and that is now breathing in the life of the other creator, the other man, and then adding to it with its breath out, breathing in, breathing out. So we're adding more water, we're creating more water, and inside the water of our breath is the intention. It holds everything we're dreaming in our breath. And that's why we can sense each other. That's why animals can sense each other. That's why everything of nature can sense, because everything is water. And the water is our true consciousness, because it's the life of the creator that holds the intention, the purpose, the dream of life. And that's why we see DNA in the water, because even the rock is water, because the DNA is the thoughts, the dreams of the purpose of the life form held in present sense. And so it's sustained in life, in creation. Right? And that's what DNA is. And that's because everything has a purpose, has an intention. So when you create a child, if you dream for your child from paradise without this nonsense, and you dream a beautiful child, that child contains all the information of the parents' intention for the dream for the child. So the DNA is encoded in the child based on everything that the parents dreamt. Now, you could be brought up by mountains and rivers and valleys. You could have sat and contemplated for whatever, looking at birds and singing until the inspiration. You dream for a partner, and then you meet your partner, and together you're dreaming and dreaming, and you're creating this magnificent bubble where you're putting all the information for the dream of the child, and then you set into motion by coming together to explode the sperm and the egg and the breath into the bubble that forms the life of the child. Now, that is the DNA. Because the DNA, it contains the intention, the purpose of that life. So when we're looking at the original DNA, pre-Monsanto, pre all these arseholes who are trying to manipulate everything into their image, everything has a purpose, right? And you feel it. You sense it. You don't think it that way. You feel it. So when you feel it, breathe in. So when you breathe in, you can then express your creativity as your dream, and you're adding it to your dream, right? What they've done, they kill the soul, break the will, break it in. So we take in the trauma through the language they trained us to talk, and now we are breathing out the trauma through the language we talk of ABC 1, 2, 3 that contains the trauma of that child that was ritually brutalized and murdered. And every sound coming out of your mouth is that. And every
So my life is cursed.
Exactly.
My life is cursed.
And that's why when you see the symbol of a man on the cross, a tortured man on the cross, they call him Jesus, and he died for our sins. This is a fucking lie. Because the creator of unconditional love would not create ritual slaughter to a man when the man is the creator itself. So the Satanists have used man to destroy man and to worship this cross. The crucifixion of the man who died for our sins. He died to keep us in our sins, not to bloody break away from the sins, because the Christian faith is a cult. It's a satanic ritual. And all the Christians who are saved are still slaves in the system, waiting to join their Jesus in the afterlife, right? So what we're getting at is it's self-fulfilling prophecies. And the creator, let's go back again to the original man in this bubble. The original man is unconditional love because it carries all the virtues of love, all the virtues that makes up unconditional love. There's many virtues, charity, benevolence, do no harm, kindness, support, confrontation, because you're ratting out the lie, you're confronting the lie. There's so many, compassion. There's so many of them, and they are all the natural attributes that makes a man what a man is in the dream of life. So, if you can grasp that, when we create our children, if they're in this image of the unconditional love that we create, then you also can realize that the creator of unconditional love that created man, because man is the creator, why would the creator create something less than the creator? Why would the creator define man to be much more limited than the creator? Now, where's the unconditional love in that? Meaning, why would the creator create a deformed man? A man that relied on prosthetics being like walking sticks when you've got broken legs or any technical to help man be what a man. Meaning, why would the creator create a man to be less than a man? So it's always dependent on the creator. So the man's always a weakling, needing the man to prop the man up. You follow what I'm saying? It's like a puppet to a string. Why would the creator create us to be a puppet on the string to the creator? If we got true freedom, the creator of unconditional love would not tie us to the creator and put us under the image of the creator. The creator gave us the freedom to express the uniqueness and originality of our true soul that the creator gave us for the dream of life and expand that. Now,
but I think it starts right at birth, the rituals, even with cutting the umbilical cord when the placenta is still beating and all that, is to really cut the link.
It even starts.
It actually starts before, because in nearly every baby that comes today is not coming from the true dream of the parents for the child in purity and sincerity. So even the thinking of the mother and father and the habits of the mother and father before conception, during the pregnancy is all affecting. I mean, if you've got the mum going out and eating Maccas and drinking Coke and smoking, what is she putting into the child right there and then? If you've got a couple who argue and fight, or they just get together out of lust and boredom, where's the dream? Where's the dream for the child in that? There is no dream. There's no conscious intention to make the child, and it's no wonder that our children don't come out fully conscious. I mean, they're a hell of a lot more conscious than us in that they're just sensory and they just feel, but we've already got to them before we even conceive them.
Yeah, there's no difference with the alien movies creating aliens, or you look at Dark City, the movie of Dark City, and you'll see just how that works. You'll see what we're talking about. But the thing is that we have the responsibility to hold the dream of life in focus, in present sense. So I see Fiona for who she is, because I'm experiencing not the lie, I'm experiencing the truth, without a lie coming between her and me and between this man and her, right? which is what the system does. They teach us to lie under the original sin, because when you accept the explanation, that is the original sin. When you accept the original sin, you've accepted the trauma of the rituals of all those who were murdered before you, because that's the prophecy. The murder is of the children, all those who died under ritual sacrifice, is the prophecy of your life, because you're now in the emotional state, the emotion state. You're in the state of New South Wales. You're in the state of Arkansas. You're in the state of Victoria. You're in the state of Tasmania. You're in the state of whatever Principality Canada. We're in a psychological state on the land, disconnected, right? Wow. And this is a psychiatric ward. This is the Jack Nicholson, the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. This is Jack Nicholson with, you can't handle the truth, because this is how far the discombobulation has been done to us. So we've accepted.
Most people can't handle the truth. I'm sorry, but this is deep stuff you're saying here. I have never heard.
It's pretty old. It's in plain sight, and it's idiot friendly. It's just that we're so attached to the explanations that define the ego, and we have lived out of the ego, the craft of protecting it, because we think that's who we are. The collection house of all this inculcation that formed the language of the man's life. Because that's, we use the language to define the man, what we think we are, through measurements. Again, we are lying all our lives, and every lie is death to the life of man. Every lie is destruction. So while we accept the lie, we're supporting death and destruction. There is no grey about this, nothing. It's clear. It's either eternal life or eternal death. And this is what's become of us. So if we fall into the phantom persona, the person, the straw man, the identity of the ego, which was explained to us, that defined the name Arthur. If I believe in that, I'm not only fallen, I'm dying. I'm killing my soul, because I'm not creating a dream of the living man there to further on. So when the body goes, the life of that soul continues on. It's not there. So if you don't create a living soul, a living song, and all you know is the definitions of ABC, and all the trauma comes with it, and all your life is dreams of these occultists who've been fucking with your head, fucking with all our heads, we die with no soul. Well, and it's finished.
That's why.
And the only, let me hang on. Yeah. The only thing that continues on is the memories of the life. That's why they record it in books. Why we have, you know, after the Anzac Wars and all that, and we have all the memorials and all the cemeteries and all the stuff. While that continues on, the memories of all the dead can continue being risen up, but they're dead. All the apparitions of all the soulless lives can be used as the dark force energy that they rely on to perform the rituals of the system that's celebrated as the Olympic Games. It's celebrated as New Year's Eve. It's celebrated as Easter and Christmas. It's celebrated under all these despicable things that these people do. But if you go to a haunted house, it's because you are experiencing the apparitions of the lives of those who lived the lie, and they died without a soul, because the soul ain't there. Most people are dying without a soul because they got so close to the truth, but they still weren't the living truth themselves. So you can have your whole world explained to you. Like when David Icke comes into your life, or Mark Pazio, or Eric Dubai, or John Maxwell, or any of these despicable liars like Michael Tellinger and Santos Bonacci and all these other bullshit liars, or Oprah Winfrey and Deepak Chopra and you know, Eckhart Tolle and all the other quantum physics storytellers and all those who push the movie The Secret, and you know, it goes on and on. This is a lie. It is your death you're accepting here, because it ain't your dream. You did not create it. If we're raised by nature, the inspiration of our dreaming inspires our dreaming, and there is our soul. No one can define that for us. It can't be explained to us. We can't even be shown how to do it. We can only be it ourselves. And that means we've had to doubt who we are. We've had to doubt our magnificence. We've had to doubt the child that Fiona was talking about. The mother, before she even opened the legs to be penetrated by the man, she was already doubting who she was. And he was already doubting who he was. They were creating a lie in their intercourse, because the sex they were having had nothing to do with the dream for creating a child, which is the only reason why we should be doing it. Because that's what we do. We're creation. We're creators. So that soul, that life that pops out in a world, in the system, in a suburban house with, you know, with all the electricity and gas and all the contracts that the parents are living in, and the education, the school and the preschool and the laws and the vaccinations and the chlorinated water and all this stuff, right? That man, that child, still has the opportunity to create a soul if it can remember to do it, if it knows who it is and can do it. Sadly, they are part of the robot race of slaves manufactured by the occultists to create a world of slaves. And every civilization is this. Every single civilization ever existed is this scam, is this lie. So what we're doing is breaking away from the measurements that defined us. So let's go back again, because I want to go into the measurements a bit more here, which we talk about in the Eric Dubai's Flat Earth is a cult, right?
No, interesting things you wrote. I read it.
Yeah, so if you get, okay, so let's, for the listeners, is that Flat Earth is an example. Now, you can get caught up in the measurements of the Flat Earth because Eric Dubai is relying on the English language of definition, which is lineal. It's a lineal construct. It's not non-lineal. And when you look at Earth like that, it's no different to taking a man from India, blindfold a man who's never seen an elephant, and while blindfolded, please go and tell us what this is. And you walk up to the elephant and you feel the tail and you go, oh, it's a rope. And you go, oh, it's a trunk. Oh, it's a fan. But the man is blind because the man can't see the big picture. It can only see what has been defined. And if you bring up a child and explain to them everything through measurements of definition, which is ABC 1, 2, 3, which is the education you've been given, that explains to you everything of mathematics and geometry, because, you know, when you're looking through the eyes of ABC, you're looking at latitude, longitude, you're looking at seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years, BCs, ADs, you're looking at levels, planes, dimensions, higher beings, gods, you're looking at the moon, solar systems, you're looking at Earth, you're looking at, and everything is, you're seeing through the eyes of measurements, which is a shattered reality, because you're now lost in the storytelling of the third-party explanations that defines the lie that you're living, and you can't sense the big picture. So you're close to the truth because you can see it all, you can sense it, but you can't make sense of it because you're so lost in the explanation that's defining, because you're still projecting it over everything you're looking at. So it's the same with the Flat Earth with Eric Dubai. Earth, to us, Earth doesn't end at the surface of Earth on the land. Earth is the whole of creation. Everything is Earth. Everything is consciousness. Everything is life. So you've got to see the big picture to define the true shape of Earth. You can't just look at a straight line and say that's Earth, because that's brainwashing, because it means you're still disconnected from sensing that the fact that you were lied to when you were told that Earth ends here on the land and there is all the rest of space with all its quantum physics and astrology, numerology, and all the other crap that comes into it that messes with their heads, because Eric Dubai is relying on everyone to be brainwashed into the definitions of measurement, which is English. We're talking English, right? He's relying on you to believe in English or French or Hebrew or Dutch, doesn't matter, whichever read and write, it's all theirs, it's all satanic. And the technology that comes from it, the equipment is lineal. How can something that has no soul, no consciousness, define reality to us? Or, look, when every thought in your head is not coming from what you're looking at. Now look at the owl. Do you notice the owl? You see the owl? Ooh, ooh, ooh. That's the telescope and the microscope for you. Ooh, that's the inculcation working on us. Ooh, because we're seeing in the dark. We're in the night. And we can see the illumination. And we're looking at flat Earth, you fucking idiot, Eric Dubai, you prick.
I never seen it like, but listen, I'm on board with you because
I'm telling you, I don't give a fuck about these people. Eric Dubai's a cunt. He's lying to you and destroying you. He's telling you to die because he's creating a cult. The same as that Frederick Maloof, the same as David Icke. These intelligence networks all working together to create a new order. They all come together. Oh, he sounds very similar to what I'm doing. and you'll find they're all slowly all coming together, this brotherhood of Freemasons, intelligence networks, and all the stupid sheep will all been raised up in the image that they've worked together to bring everyone like Moses out of Egypt into Israel. Is Isis, Ra, and El. These are all the satanic constructs and concepts that forms the fiction of the system with the we now call Jesus or the New World Order. Eric Dubai is lying through his bloody teeth. He won't even debate this with us. He won't even cut. He'll just run. He's a gutless fucking wimp. He's a gutless wimp because the truth, he won't go where the truth takes you, right? We have to say this. This is what your immune system does. Your immune system does not accept a lie. You don't sit there and, oh, it's a nice lie. Oh, yes, come and sit by my side. It's like your immune system gets visited where someone's knocking on your door. It's a cancer and it's lethal. And it says, hi, your immune system, would you please let me come in and share a part of your body with you? I mean, all is one. I mean, let's all be fair about this, right? We all have a right to exist, each to our own. Each to our own, right? And the immune system says, oh, yeah, come in, man. I'll let you take this left leg. Have that one. I'll have the rest, right? Now, you know that's a lie. Now, when you wake up, you don't sit down and accept fucking anything. You push it all back in their face and you tell them exactly how it is. Because the horror of the lie needs to be seen as the fucking horror of the lie. That's why they're cunts. That's why they're fucking arseholes. Because they're destroying you. Because they're destroyed themselves. They don't love you. They don't respect you. They see you as shit and scum. They lie when they think that you are their brother. They come so close to you and they put your arms around you and say, we're one of you. But if you don't rat out them, they will fucking destroy you. Because you've got to remember, our ancestors were in paradise before the fall. How did they fall? How the hell did our ancestors in this magnificence get deceived into falling and keep it this way ever since we fell? The cunning of this is so cunning. The brilliance of it is so clever that if you don't wake up, if you don't see this, you'll keep accepting the lie and keep setting the lie into motion to give it power. And these people will be the smiling politicians kissing babies, are the manufacturers who are putting the poison in the lolly that you eat. They'll lie to you about the chlorine in the water that you drink, right? Because go back to the screw and the nail that forms the system of the building of the house of your life in the system, right? It's all compromised by lies to destroy you because they are destroyed themselves. They only offer you death. Eric Dubai only offers you death. David Icke only offers you death. That's all he's offering you. Death. Because anyway, it's compromised by the lie. Now, these are gutless wimps, right? They're gutless wimps. Now, the passion, when you wake up, you get passionate like this man. You don't have to be like me. You don't have to swear like this man swears. You don't need to. I do it because that's the way it is for me. I just think they're real cunts, these people. They are, because it's despicable, because I've got children.
But especially he doesn't want to show up, like he doesn't want to debate or anything. So
they don't want to, none of them will. They just run away. They're just pathetic wimps.
I invited him on my show. He's be alone with me. He doesn't want to come.
All Freemasons are wimps. They're gutless wimps. The lot of them. They're gutless wimps. They're relying on slaves to do their dirty work. They're relying on robots. Now, going back to this flat earth thing, you get so lost in the definitions of measurement that defines Sagittarius, Aquarius, that defines the astrology and all the galaxies and universes. All of this is make-believe because we are projecting it. So the ritual of the broken, murdered, tortured child that was tortured with that straw in their soul to capture the last blood of their broken will, to capture the last breath as they capture in their ceramic jars and use it to perform these despicable rituals that goes into man's breath. Because when you release it into man's breath, it penetrates the whole of creation like that. There's nowhere where that intention is not. So everyone becomes susceptible. So how we are here affects someone in England right now. How we are here is going to affect someone in America right now. How we are all over the world affects all of us. We're all at the effect of each other because we're in the prophecy, fulfilling the lie of the dreamer, the grand architect who dreamt this shit. So what we're talking about here now is that the lie is defined, is a definition. So we are told about the bird. Oh, it's a sparrow and it's brown and it does this and this and that and it's part of this. So when we see the sparrow and it's sitting on a branch, we can't see the bigger picture of what the true purpose of the sparrow is, and the true purpose of the relation the tree has with the sparrow. And the things that are inside the feathers of the sparrow, there could be other creatures in there doing what it's doing naturally. And then we don't know what the poo's doing, the sparrow. Why did you drop the poo right there and then where you did it? And it goes down, and a whole lot of other creatures start doing things with it right there and then. And then you look at all the other relationship that the tree has to the ground and the soil and the humates and all the wonderful things in the soil that makes the topsoil and makes all the humus on the top of the soil, and and it goes right up into the branches and all the limbs and why the tree is the way it is and why the sunlight glistens and the moisture's on the leaves, and we lose so much connection. We just lose so much connection that we can't sense the big picture, meaning we can't sense all our ancestors singing to us in any moment right before our eyes as we look at Dream of Light, because our head is spinning with the occultic practices of the intellectual cult, right? The occult, the occult. We are in a cult. The system is a cult. Everything of the system is a cult of cults. Flat Earth is a cult because it's defined, it's been explained to you. It's been explained to everybody. Now, here's the thing. This is the thing we've got to get past this. When we get past the measurements, and this is pseudoscience. This is the true practice of pseudoscience, because pseudoscience is make-believe as if it's true. It's the imagining made out to be true, and we believe it. And it relies on belief, faith, and associated opinion to that pseudoscience. In this case, 1, 2, 3. That's pseudoscience. ABC, that's pseudoscience. Where can you go in nature and talk to ABC 1, 2, 3 in first party without a third party coming forward, acting as in first party as ABC 1, 2, 3? Where can a child brought up in nature go anywhere in nature to learn about ABC 1, 2, 3 without another man already brainwashed having to explain it to them? This is pseudoscience in practice. This is flat earth in practice. This is everything they do, because the Freemasons need a cult, because the cult is all the robots together working to form the system of that lie. And we call it Christianity, or Mormons, or Jehovah's Witnesses, or Seventh-day Adventists, or we call them Arabs and all the different breakdowns of the Arab world, or we call them Greeks and all the breakdowns of Greeks into different parts of Greece, or we break down and individualize everything. Everything's so broken down, and our head is so discombobulated that we can no longer sense all our ancestors who are singing to us right now as the tree, as the bird, as the wind, as everything that lives. Because we've lost this. We shut down. And that's what David Icke and Eric Dubine and all these arseholes do. They're cold, cunning, brutal intellects. And all their fanatics, all those in the fanaticism do this. They react. They fight for their fucking religion. They fight for their dogma. They fight, and they'll destroy anyone they perceive as an enemy. Notice the thread when you put on Facebook what some of these people are saying to us. We never said to them, we hate you. We never said to you, please hate us. We never said to you that you are less than a man. We just deconstructed the lie of flat earth and everything that comes with it. But they took it personally because they believe they are flat earth. It's just like if I say to Alice is a load of bullshit, she could take offense at it and say, how dare you talk to me like that? I'm Alice. How rude you are. And just destroy it and we get divorced. Because she believes in the lie. That's fanaticism. That's what Christians do. They're fanatics. That's what people do in science. They're fanatics. It's a legion. Legion. Legion is a cult. It's an army of man against man. It's a war dance. It's a war dance. That's what Eric Dubine, what the Freemasons are relying on here, to create cults out of man. We're not supposed to be under anyone's image. We're supposed to be a unique, original man. We don't need a cult. We don't need an order or a society. We don't need education. We don't need fucking none of this shit. We're still alive. We're still breathing. Why do we doubt our magnificence? Why do we doubt all our ancestors before us who lived the truth and been the truth and gave us this inheritance, the legacy of their real lives? They gave it to us. And we're breathing their air. We're drinking their water of their life. And so the Catholics, they go to the priests. Let's have the Holy Communion. Eat the white lie. Be destroyed more. Like my mother, you must be baptized. We're going to baptize you. Under which priest? Under whose authority? Whose rights? Whose God? Because I confronted my mother's priest about this, right? Because my mother said to me, I'm going to hell. And I said, okay, fine. Let's talk to your priest about this. So we did. We had a chat to the priest. I said, can you pray for this God that you're representing? I don't want to hear it from you. I want to hear it from God directly. Otherwise, you're lying to me. He got that. Right? He got it. And I said to him, so you want me to commit the original sin by being under you now, under your author rights? Because the author rights is the practice of the cult. Right? That's why fanaticism does what it does, as the conquistadors went to Central America and murdered all the tribes, because they didn't see all the live tribes. They just saw they had to convert them all into their image. Right? So the Freemasons don't see you. They don't see me. They don't see all the children of man. They see what they're going to make them be, what they want from them, because they want them to be their slaves, to be their robotic union, you know, as in communism, the union, the union of Catholics, the union of the Protestants, the unions of the Church of England, the union of, you know, the Crown and
that's why they want us to come together. It's easier to control us.
We come together through the lie. We don't actually co-create. You see, we already are together.
But I was always saying that. I was always promoting that together as one, until I realized this week, why do we have to come together? Why we would even have to think coming together? If we are all able to manage, if we all have the Creator's consciousness, I can take care of my parcel of land. The guy that's conscious next door can take to his hill, and we can create community and have an immunity together. Like, if I can think of it, come on.
Why do we doubt each other? Because when we doubt each other, we allow these satanic rituals to unfold before our eyes, because that is the program in our head. We've been trained to doubt our magnificence, and we've defaulted into the ego to perform the emotion of that ego, and that is the fanaticism in practice. That is the religion that we are bonded to, that defines us as flat earthers, or as conspiracy theories, or evolutionists, or Big Bang theorists, or atheists, or Christians, or Muslims, or Buddhists. It doesn't matter. It's the same ritual. It's a satanic ritual. They've taken us close to the truth, but we are not the truth. We're not living it. So we're still the lie.
We're not living the truth. You're not living your dream. So they're sucking your life energy. That's all they're doing.
And that's the whole New World Order comes out of this. And all of the lie that ever existed does this. This is the common denominator. It's done through measurements. Measurements. Because that's the compass and the square. The compass and the square of the Freemason is measurements. So when you look at the symbol of Adam, Eve, apple, and snake, Adam is man. Eve is man. The snake is man. But the forbidden tree is the compass and the square. It's measurements. The forbidden apple of the forbidden tree is explanation, instruction, education, suggestion. Right, so the snake man puts an idea in Eve's head. Eve likes the idea, the explanation. So she falls under the image power and begins to perform the intention of the snake upon her. So she then turns around to Adam and says to Adam, the explanation, trying to seduce Adam under the snake's image that she now is in love with. This is flat earth, Eric Dubai. Same practice. And all we are doing here is what we talk about on the homepage of the website and some other work. When a child is brought up by nature, and we don't interfere through explanation, etc., we allow the inspirations of the dream of life of all our ancestors that live as the stars and lose at everything to inspire the life of the child. So the child can grab the big picture, because we dreamt the big picture for the child before we even came together and had sex to create the child, if we are really awake. And then the big picture unfolds. And so the child senses everything. It can hear the voices of all the ancestors because they still live. They're still alive. Now, when we educate the child, we're telling them, you're no longer magnificent. when the snake whispered to Eve, the snake is saying to Eve, you're no longer magnificent. I want you to trust what I'm telling you. I want you to like my explanation that defines everything you see. So when we put explanation to our children, instruction, education, suggestion, which is indoctrination, brainwashing, we're telling them, you're no longer magnificent, that you can't work it out your unique original way, that you need us to define you. And because it was done to us, because they defined us to be in their image, we're all going back through the recorded history of the snake, the grand architect of Freemasonry, who started the world of measurements, of definition, explanation. But more than that, we're saying that not only are you no longer magnificent, you are totally destroyed.
You're going to be a living dead.
You're going to be a living dead because you're now going to rely on the world of definitions of English, Latin, Hebrew, whatever alphabet, tongue you dream.
We're going to curse your life and you're going to be a living dead if you don't wake up.
Exactly. Because the moment the snake intended was the original sin upon Eve if she accepted that explanation that defined who she thinks she is. And that is the original sin. Now, you'll find that when these idiots came on their ships and they did all the things they did on these lands, like this land we now call Australia, or the Commonwealth of Australia, the corporation, they then divided all the lands into parish lands. They put a church in every parish and put a priest in every church to deal with the original sinners, because all the original sinners were educated by the invaders to live the original sin of the lie. And because the original sinners came with force and authority and all that, they've subjugated everybody. They're all subjects to Caesar, to Caesar's world, if you want to look at it that way. So then the priest in the church is a Masonic lodge, because the Masons created the English religion, created the Roman Catholic Church, created the Jesuit world, created the British royal family, created the bloodlines and all their heritage, created the Church of England, and on it goes. And so it doesn't matter which denomination you come from, you're still in their house of masonry. You're under the flag, because Europa, you look at Europa, every royal family was a house and had a flag. And you can call it today Spain and Holland and France and Portugal. They are all of the bloodlines of this satanic agenda. And the Freemasons today white ant this by calling them the Illuminati and writing about the Black Cabal and the Black Brotherhoods and all these sort of stuff to desensitize people, so they're still lost in the measurements. So they can't see the craft of this practice that's fucking everyone over right now while they've been told this shit. Right? That's why
I've never seen it. I was into Flat Earth big time at the beginning. I've never been really attracted by it, because I'm not a groupie. You have to really, for me to become your groupie, you really have to, I don't know, maybe Bob Marley. I'm the only one I can tell I'm a groupie of, but the rest, but even that, Bob, I have research to do still, so I'm not totally convinced about the whole thing. But I'm gonna, they want us. They want to kill our dream. They want to kill our soul, and that's very important for them to take all our life energy. That's what I was saying.
We've been Frankenstein. We've all been Frankenstein, and the thing is, the methods of Frankensteinian technology on us is wide and varied, and we've all been turned into these abominations, and that are not a man. We're a type of man, but we're not a man.
But I never thought it was going that. And I'm blown. Listen, I go where the truth takes me, and for me, that's the truth, because that's what I feel. I feel it. I sense it. So I know that's what it is. It's it makes sense.
It does.
It has to make sense.
The thing is, so the souls they kidnapped and put them through the ritual torture and murdered them to break their will is the explanation coming at us that compels us to give up our will, to accept the will of another man's intention that defines the reality of who we think we are. This is exactly the SIOP program.
It's the same way, whether it's a globe or it's a flat earth, they kill your soul anyway.
Exactly. So it doesn't matter how it's used, it's the intention behind it. So it's the same with us. Don't believe anything we're saying. Listen to our intention.
Yeah.
don't listen to this words coming out of our mouth, because every time you hear us talking, what you're hearing in your head is not us. It's the representation of the inculcation practice that you're calling up. You keep calling it up, keep recalling it to define who you think we are in explaining it to you. If you do that, you're going to be lost in the nonsense. But if you listen and sense us, you get past all this, and the ritual won't work on you, and you begin to sense the bigger picture, because you'll realize flat earth doesn't exist, because the whole of creation is something more magnificent. And unless we can step back and see the big picture, as the blind man blindfolded to the elephant and see the big picture of the elephant, we will only think certain bits of it. And if we don't see the big picture, all the areas that we don't see is the darkness messing with us, which is the dark side of the moon, which is the light. Now remember this, the sun casts no shadow. The sun does not cast a shadow. There's no darkness. The sun doesn't cast any darkness, because the soul of man has no darkness. The darkness is man-made. So even when you look at the night sky, you still see all the light. You see everything that lives.
Yeah, it's not dark at night. It's not dark.
Okay, we've just destroyed, through the firmament collapsing, all the water coming down, we've destroyed the firmament. The firmament would have been more alive in what we call the twilight, in the night. The twilight would have had a lot more glistening color, which would be so powerful. Like looking at the aurora borealis and those things. The whole of all of the twilight of night would have been like that all across Earth, because it was a temperate climate. So we don't even know our true heritage, because all that's been destroyed. It's been Frankenstein. Earth's been Frankenstein. We've decimated so much because of all the religions who practice the occultic religion, these compelling programs that formed all the wars. Every man that turned against man, that every man that invaded another man's home, that invaded another man's land. Not that we owned any of the land, but to decimate the lives, because we didn't sense the true intentions of man. So when these UFOs came across the water, they weren't sensing the true purpose of the man on the land. They came already with the intention to conquer all of them and bring them all under their image. That was why they came. That's why they're in your life right now. That's why you got their laws and the governments. That's why David Icke's here. This is why all these people like Eric Dubai and Mark Pazio, they're all here in your fucking head. Because that's the only place they got you, outside of holding a gun and threatening you, and an odd ritual, you know, like the Boston bombings and some of the other shootings, to make you think, oh my God, we all got to be terrorized, and play that through their mainstream media and all that, so they can all stimulate the terror and the horror of all of us, because most of us are bluff. They rely on the bluff to pull off the New World Order. You know why? Why it's a bluff? Let me finish.
Yeah.
You know why it's a bluff? It's because to pull off the New World Order, it can't be done by bad guys. If you're a sheep inside the enclosure, you can't have all bad guys around you to make you think that you're entering into something magnificent. That's the New World Order. You have to be in an enclosure surrounded by good guys who rescued you from the bad guys. So they come in, destroy the enclosure of the system of the current cult, and move you to another enclosure surrounded by good guys, who are all the Knights Templars, and tell you this is your freedom. So all the cattle are grazing on their freedom. All the cattle are grazing on the grass of consciousness. They're grazing on the lands of freedom, but they're all fucking brainwashed. Because the duality of the Freemasons work both as light and dark, because they got to use the truth to destroy you with it. So the bad guys come from the same orders and lodges and societies as the good guys. And the co-intel, the intelligence networks behind it, is what creates the herd mentalities that inspires the ego and the emotion of that ego to be the storytelling of what they claim will be their living consciousness as they move from one enclosure, the current horror of the system, where the Rothschilds are bad guys and the Jews are bad guys, and blame it on the Illuminati and all this, which is all bullshit. I'm telling you, it's all bullshit, this stuff, man. This is only one small bit of it, the bigger picture here. But the purpose the intention is to mislead everyone. Let's go to this new enclosure. Let's be Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt.
The blind leading the blind. We live in a world, the blind leading the blind.
Exactly. And so the new enclosure is Eric Dubai, the good guy. David Icke, the good guy. Jordan Maxwell, the good guy. Sasha Stone, the good guy. The One Earth this, the One Earth that. The Echo Communities this. The Jacques, whatever his name is, with his Venus project. These are all system-based. It's system because it's based on measurements. It's based on relying on man being brainwashed to enter into it. If no man was educated, no man would be that sheep going into that enclosure. If man was educated, no man would go into Eric Dubai's Flat Earth and become part of a cult. And this is how it works.
You know, there's one.
I've got to step out for a second.
There's one thing.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
That I read a few years ago that really helped me, because I found that when you realize how we've been educated into the lineal way of thinking, it's actually really hard to just get what non-lineal is, because we're so conditioned to beginning, end, past, future. But I read something in a book that really blew my brain a few years ago, and it said that, you know, if you've got a stretch of coastline and a man walks along that coastline, he's going to walk a certain distance, if we call it distance. But if you get a mouse who walks that same stretch of coastline, he's going to walk a totally different distance, because he's going to go up and down a lot more little crevices than the man is. And then if you get an ant who does that same stretch of coastline, the ant's going to be going through every single little tiny nook and cranny. So how can you say how long that piece of coastline is? Yeah. Because it's just, there is no definition of it. You cannot define it. And I found in some of the stuff I do, dealing with some of the products we use in the garden stuff, I'm lifting bags that might be, say, 50-pound bags or 20-pound bags or whatever. Or we've got the kilos over here. And it's interesting because I have discovered that sometimes 15 kilos of one thing feels a lot heavier than 22 kilos of another thing. And how is it that sometimes it's easier to pick up this 22-kilo bag of something than it is to pick up this supposedly 15-kilo of bag of something? And it's a real anomaly that I found really hard to get my head around. I can lift this one up with ease, but it's supposed to be heavier than this one that I struggle to lift up. So, and those things just show how that definition is a total lie, because everything is dependent on so much more than just this measurement that says this coastline is this long, this thing weighs this much. There's so much more involved to that we just don't look at.
So much constructed ideas in our brain to define the reality that we live in. And you know what's hard, Fiona, for a lot of people is to let go. Me, Jabba came to me today on Skype. He said, Yannick, he said, I saw your let go video. He said, you're starting to let go. I said, yeah, because that's what we have to do. We have to start to let go. And that's what a lot of people cannot get, even what it is to let go of what? But it's to let go of all the constructed images and thoughts you have from another man's dream in your head if you want to start building your own, because you're corrupted in there. I was like that. Listen, I experienced it. I'm talking about stuff I know because I lived that curse. And my life is cursed from the day I was born. I came here, I'm cursed. Until I woke up at 40 and whoa. There's something in life than just this. But it's to look in the mirror. Most people don't want to look in the mirror, too, Fiona. No.
It sometimes can take so long for that to get through as well, because I only realized this about the bags, lifting up these bags recently. And I've been lifting up these bags for like 3 years and stuff. And it only just recently I went, hang on a minute. This feels lighter than this, even though it's officially heavier than this. So it took me like 3 years to break through that brain conditioning of, no, that one's heavier and this one's lighter. And that's the way it is, because the scales tell me that that one's 22.68 kilos and this one is 15 kilos. Therefore, this one must be heavier. And I suddenly went, hang on, I can lift this more easily than I can lift this. Yeah. That's crazy. You know, it's completely crazy. And that whole thing about the distance of how long something is, you just cannot define it. But we don't see that, because we're so addicted to those numbers and to what we've been told, that this is longer than this and this stretch of coastline has to go from here to here and it is exactly 5 kilometers long and that's it.
Why, when it comes to defining the shape of the earth, it's totally wrong to say whatever it is, because it's all constructed images and form. And
exactly. And as Arthur was saying, this thing that's so important, that we are so programmed to believe that this is me, and this body is all that I am, and this is where I stop, and this is where you begin over there. When it's not, I don't stop existing. I'm still part of the whole bigger thing. So he's gone.
Yeah.
But we have got so brainwashed into that delineation and into that way of thinking that's why we can look at Eric Dubai and without even thinking we go, oh, okay, so that's the surface of the earth and that measurement's here and that there.
I fell for it 100%.
Who told us that that's the surface of the earth and that's where the earth finishes? Where do we get that construct and that concept to even think like that?
You know, we're not saying here that the horizon is not horizontal. It's not what we're saying. It is horizontal. But the thing is to say that you can associate a shape or a form or any kind of thing using the same thing you've been programmed with. It's totally making you keep turning the wheel. You're not getting people outside of the madness wheel. You're just turning the wheel with the same madness, same language, same stuff we all been taught to, and we don't realize that we should live our dreams.
This is why we have passports, because we go from the house of Masons to another house of Masons to another house of Masons as we move from one major like Goulburn here in Australia. We go from Goulburn to Barrel or to Sydney. Each regional area is controlled by Freemasons. They're no different to the flags of Europa that define the houses of these Freemasons that plan to conquer the whole of Earth, because they're all the Canaanites of this Norman conquest. This goes another subject, but the point is, when you're under the house, you're under the influence of now they all have a common interest. They all share English. They all share the history books. They all share the university, the universe ITY, the universe I. And from that comes all the educators, all the professors and the scientists, all the quantum physics and everything that defines the system, constructs and concepts. And this is the song of the Freemasons, his story. They're recorded ages, recorded in their books, and they teach us to sing their songs. So when you're in the house of this case, this area, the local council will be the Windsor Caribbean Council, right? It's controlled by Freemasons, and it'll be a Mason in power because it controls the whole system of that in this area. And then there's another Freemason, and then another Freemason. So when you have a passport, you know, and you leave the Commonwealth of Australia and you go to New Zealand, you're going from one world of Freemasonry to another. And you're going from the recorded history of their power to another, because it's the constructs and concepts that we raised up from the dead that forms the system that we worship, because we are that religion. We are at the effect of the occults of these people. So when you look at the system, another way to look at it too is it's full of discrimination and censorship, because most men and women can't grasp mathematics. So they're not going to be good in economy. They're not going to be good in business because they don't know how to really work with measurements. But more than that, most men and women don't really like taking advantage of other men and women. They shy away from that. So most of us are discriminated against even before we were educated, because they know that some of us, or most of us, will not become those animals, those psychopaths who can be brought in the system to take advantage of everyone else that are slaves and use them under the umbrella of a private corporation or a political party, and go and destroy a mountain, go and just change a river, go and dam that river, go and use fracking and dig up the ground and let corporations come and do things what they do, right? You see, so when you look at politics, what appears to be on the surface as someone who's alternative and from outside the box of mainstream politics looks like, oh, this guy's on his own. But what you don't see is that the Freemasons mostly raise these people up. They bring them up from grassroots to make it look like they're one of the people. They're the new type of man. And so they speak the mantras and allow that to come into mainstream, to be played out in mainstream. We had that with Pauline Hanson in Australia with the One Nation Party. And the whole purpose was to discriminate everyone, to censor everyone, because They don't see that she was raised up to be trained to do this dirty work, like Eric Dubai with the flat earth, to create the cult out of it. We had Pauline Hanson in Australia with the One Nation Party to kidnap all the rednecks of Australia who had been done over by the banks since the 50s and 60s, where we lost more than 250,000 farming families off the land. And there's many, many disgruntled Australians in Queensland and in New South Wales and Victoria and other parts of Australia. And so she would speak the mantras, like the Green Party speaks the mantras of sustainability and alternative. And so they call them green, right? But they're controlled by the same Freemasons because they come out of the same. Now, sometimes some of us come as those good people, but then our work gets kidnapped, it gets taken over, hijacked. And then they run with the mantras of that, but they use it to bring it close to the truth, but the lie is the system itself. So this is why the Green Party is still in politics. This is why Michael Tellinger has Ubuntu in politics, right? But keep everyone in the system under the constructs and concepts, right? Where everyone is still discriminated and everyone's being censored because, you know, to be good in business, to make lots of money and get ahead, you have to be bloody ruthless and smart. Most people can't do it. Not because they're bad. It's that that's not their talents. That's not their natural talents. And so it's easy for the Freemasons to take advantage of the whole world as it is, to create political parties and political movements, and knowing that by the time they all rise up to the top, there's only a tiny few at the top. They've got all control. And that's why they say we will lead every revolution against us, because it's easy to control everybody, because they can discriminate against everyone, because they know most people hate mathematics, most people hate economics, but most people still need to survive. They still need a roof over their head. They still want to do the right thing, be good people. They still want to put their kids through school, thinking that's the right thing to do as a good citizen, a good community member. They still go to vote in politics and go to elections and all this sort of stuff, right? But if you step back and look at the big picture, this censorship and discrimination is staggering, how brilliant they do it, because they're relying on those of us who are outside the box of this control. Our heads start to stick up. It's like a fog. Their nonsense and brainwash is like a fog, but some of us stick our head up above it, and they see us, and we see them. Now, they can come and shoot you and try and kill you, which they did with many people, you know, like Crocodile Hunter and Peter Brock and John Lennon and George Harrison and Bob Marley and Diana Spencer, and it goes, there's thousands of good people, mate, with influence over public thinking, influence over the herd mentality, the religions of those countries that are under the power of the Masons who live in every area. It's all brilliantly done. It's like the Hunger Games again. If you look at the Hunger Games, you see this. So the censorship and the discrimination is such that they control the media, they control the politics, they control the banking, they control the judicial system of the law, they control the private corporations with all its cross directorships, they control every facet. So it's easy to be like a colander, to let only them through and everyone else trapped in it, to let their people through the net and all the rest are trapped in their nets. Or they are the Pied Pipers who capture all the rats, and the Pied Pipers are the ones all under their control because they work for the dream that they all live for, while everyone else is under the image power as those rats, the sheep in the enclosure that have been manipulated from the bad guys, because the bad guys is all the horror around us today, right? Everything going wrong and taking all of man to the point where everyone's on their knees going, please do something about it, because they haven't learned to take responsibility for their life. They're still waiting for others to fix this problem. We've still got to come together to fix it, because they're relying on this coming together, which is fake, right? And then if you can get everyone on their knees, because all the oceans have been almost to the point of extinction, and all the Amazons almost being annihilated, and, you know, pregnant women getting bashed by police, and injustice by the police is happening to black man, white man, red man, yellow man, doesn't matter what kind of man, and everything going wrong you could possibly think of. Where literally hell, the destruction of everything, is at the point of absolute annihilation. And they're relying on this to bring the remedy in when we're so close to annihilation. And their good guys are working on all of us in the meantime. The Sasha Stones, the Michael Tellingers, the Eric Dubais, the David Ikes, and all these others are putting the shit in your head to get you to move from the bad guy manipulation of the Masons who control everything. Remember, the Masons control all the land everywhere now. They've already had it in control for hundreds of years everywhere, man. It's not like we've got power. We've never got the fucking power in that way. They're relying on the lie of this thing, the illusion of this thing. So the sheep will have been moved to the new enclosure, surrounded by good guys who don't carry guns. They're good guys who work with the law, who work with government, but it's good government. It's good politics. It's good education, right? But it's all fucking inculcation. It's still brainwashing because every single man, woman, child in it and of it had to be got at. They don't have a unique original soul there. So this is the discrimination. This is this whole thing of the flat earth thing again, where if you can't see the big picture, you'd be lost in the information of the snake that is whispered in Eve's head, and you live this lie, and you wake up and you go to bed and you think this is who we are, and you think that everything else we're doing every day of our lives and all the interests that forms social media and all the interest that forms all our passion to exploit the corruption and all that, they don't realize it was all engineered by these Pied Pipers in the first place to keep you so distracted. So while everyone's so busy caught up in surviving or fighting, they're pulling the rug under everyone's feet to prepare them to move. And there's a culling in this too, because they've already told everyone there'll only be 500 million alive by the time they finish with this culling. And they'll blame it on alien invasion, or they'll blame it on the sickness and disease spreading amongst man to kill most of man. Or they will put people, this is why they're building all these new football stadiums and sports stadiums and arenas that have very close proximity to public transport, right? Which we've exposed some of these here in Australia, because there's going to be, the New World Order will come where the Chinese 1 million army and the Singaporean army will be brought into Australia, brought into America, because they won't use Americans to do all the dirty work against all the Americans. It won't work. They won't use all the Australians to turn against the Australians, because it won't work, right? If, at some point, the conscience of many will break. So they got to bring armies from other countries, right? Now, the Chinese army was raised by the British. Now, this is how fucking sinister this thing is. Now, the East India Company was controlled by the Freemasons of England. And for 300 years, they went to war against what we now call China. And they took the Opium Wars to destroy China, to conquer China. And Britain's been in control of China even still now. Britain's still in control of China now, just like Britain's in control of America still now, right? And so they are the ones who manipulated the Chinese to create the 1 million Chinese army of men who will never hold a woman. They won't even know what it is to have a child, because most of the families that raised the 1 million army killed all the girls because they could not get the benefits to survive in the country if they raised a girl. So most girls were killed or aborted, mostly abortion. So the population in China is erratic. Now, we came across documents about 7-8 years ago where a Chinese general asked questions to the Chinese army. Do you have a problem going into another country like Australia or America and killing the people? And more than 70% or 80% said, no, we haven't got a problem, right? Now, another thing, right now off Singapore, and for many, many years, going back 7-8 years now, there's more than 500 container ships sitting there growing, this flotilla. It could be 800 container ships there. There's a large flotilla of these empty container ships, cargo ships. And they're saying it's because of economic reasons. Bullshit. It's there to move a large army really quickly because they don't have the ability to move a 1 million army like this. So they're infiltrating some of them into America, some of them into India, some of them into Australia, and then the other countries. So you look at NATO. NATO goes into third world countries in Europe because the NATO are not the Germans killing the Germans. Right? The NATO is represented by other people like Swiss and French and other brainwashed drones who come as NATO, or they come as Americans or British. This is immigration for you. This is the whole immigration policy that they've been doing for more than 100 years. This is the GATT agreement that evolved into the WTO, the World Trading, which unfolded the whole new trade situation where you now have the Americas of Canada, America, Mexico becoming one trading bloc, right? And now the Asia Pacific region is becoming one trading bloc of Australia, New Zealand, and Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and China, and all that's joining, right? Then you have another trading bloc in Europe. And the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, and the Council of Foreign Relations are all in on this. Because they're all fucking Freemasons. They're all in the scam of the bigger picture to bring together the one world order. Of one government, one education, one religion, where everyone has their own right. You know, they have right to do what they want to do, as long as they don't break the laws of the one world government. This is very similar to when you watch Star Trek and the Federation. And you see Star Trek, they're going through all the different worlds and universes. They come across all the different aliens and their policies don't change, don't interfere, right? And yet their presence is there because their fucking ships are there. And we're listening to the sire programs of the storytelling of Star Trek through the characters set to the background of the Federation. So at the same time, we have Sasha Stone and David Icke and Mark Pazia. They're fucking bringing in the whole new brainwashing scam that is the new world order of a new law, of a new culture, a new way of life. And we're going to become this one world because we're all got to protect each other from each other.
And yet they all talk about, you know, we're all unique and we're all this and we're all that, as if we, you know, that's okay. We are freedom, we are consciousness, but they're not revealing that the only thing they're bringing is just another version of the system that doesn't allow any of that.
It doesn't at all. Also, discrimination and censorship.
And also, Eric Dubé in his work, he's talking a lot about you're referring a lot to God, and we have to. I hear myself in the background. I don't know if you can lower the volume. Eric Dubé refers a lot to God and Dieu in French, and so right there it puts me a little. I was suspicious when I translated his book. I saw a lot of stuff, and a lot of numbers came back 666. Like at one point, he's telling people that if you're standing on a canal of 6 miles, it should drop on 6 feet each side, like 666. And why does it have to be there?
This is like, our culture.
But it's in plain sight. It's in the book. I translated the book. I know.
Eric Dubé is an occultist, right? David Icke is an occultist. They are brilliant occultists. David Icke hides codes in the language he uses of English as he's trained in the codes of the words, the letters. And so he talks another language buried within what is written. We suspect that his books aren't even written totally by David, his early books. There may be others involved in the writing of his books together. If David's been on his own, then he's highly trained. He's high level. And that's why you look at people like Richard Branson and David Icke, they look similar. They come from very similar gene pools. They look like they're all coming from far away, unconnected situations. But it's interesting how these guys and Bill Gates and others are all starting to come together to form this group of brotherhoods. We're all got to come together. The wealthy business people, the guy behind Mark, whatever his name, behind Facebook, the guy behind Bill Gates, you know, Bill Gates behind Microsoft. And you see all this.
And even though it's impossible to become like a mega multi-millionaire businessman without being, you know, without being prepared to trample over the lives of others and have hierarchy and have discrimination and have benefits and privileges for the few, suddenly all these guys are developing a conscience that says, hey, we've all got to work together. And yeah, okay, Bill Gates, if you really have a conscience, then get all your money busy buying up all the land, divvying it all up, giving it all out to everybody. Forget going and vaccinating kids in Africa. It's like, you know, if you really have conscience, do something. You have the means to do something.
They don't, because they're all discriminated. All the Freemasons are discriminated again, because when they gave their oaths to this order, it was the death to their families, death to them, death to their career, death to their integrity, death to their recorded history. It will be rewritten that they're bad guys. They'll be turned into evil, demonic things, right? So they don't turn. The David Icke won't turn against this because they know it's the death of his son. It'll be the death of his ex-wives or partners. It'll be death of his mother. It goes on. These people are deeply compromised. I know this because of the people I've spoken to privately who visited me, that who have revealed to us their world and backed up everything we were already saying. I didn't need them to tell me any of this, but it was interesting because there are many Freemasons who are scared to death. They hate what they're doing, and they're working on a way to get out of this. This is how Rome and Babylon collapsed, because back then, when Babylon collapsed, because the centurions and the soldiers of Rome started to flee it. The senators of Rome started to flee the political system, and everything from inside it started collapsing because their conscience started to kick in when they realized how big this lie was and how compromised, and they're passing on death to their children, death to their mother and father, death to them. And that's all they're offering. That's why they will flee. This is why the New World Order will not happen in that way, because it is death. Because they were to pull it up, it would be what we saw last time when the whole of Earth was decimated and everything exploded from inside out and outside in. All the waters came down and destroyed all the lowlands where everyone used to live, and now it's the Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, and all that. What we're going to experience this time will be far more devastating than any of this. And this time there will be few of us that will remain. And we suspect it'll be a burning fire, a disease that'll pass from man to man, that'll just, people get it and die not even in half an hour. It'll be so quick. And people just die like that so fast because they're not here anymore. They die like that and they don't even know they're gone because they're already gone. And we suspect things like this will happen. So it's self-fulfilling. We created
the prophecy is self-fulfilling.
It's self-fulfilling. And they don't see it themselves that they've been used and abused. All the Freemasons have been used and abused by this. Even the highest levels occultists above the Eric Dubais and the David Icke who practice these occults. Because you're getting into the compass and square of measurements, you're getting into the read and write alphabet languages now, because it is what defines the matrix that they use for their power. It defines what becomes a royal family and kings and queens, and it defines government. You know, it defines everything of the matrix. It defines
everything, the alphabet.
Everything of life.
You know, it's like the pressure cooker, and it, you know, the pressure's building and the pressure's building, and it's like there's only so long that the purpose of everything that is can be pushed in another direction. There's only so long before the resistance just bangs it all back the other way, which is the pressure cooker just exploding. You can't go against the purpose of life and what it's here for. And in the end, it's going to all, you know, the greater the pressure pushing it to go away from its true purpose, the greater the resistance is going to be when it comes and it goes wham back the other way. So the more they push to keep going anti-life, the bigger the reaction is going to be in the end, when unless we all get our heads together and walk away from it before it gets to that point, then we can only expect a massive readjustment as everything of life goes no more. And it's like, you know, the what's it called, the elastic in the catapult, pitchung, it's going to come back so fast that can only be total and utter just destruction,
and they'll be
chaos.
Very Fiona, serious, they'll be very we suspect less than 3 years from now, whether it's 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, where it's so close. I don't know exactly what that is, because it's the collective will of all of man that's bringing it about. They can't control this. It's outside their control, because they're just a man like every other man.
And that's why we don't have to create this reaction, this catapult springing back. We can choose to take steps to do something different before it gets to that point. It's whether it's, you know, just how many are prepared to do the dirty work and really wake up and really go where truth takes them, so they stop supporting that and stop creating the pressure and keeping the pressure and keep pushing and pushing and pushing everything away from its purpose.
See, the kingdom dream that we took, that we maybe the next video, the next time we do, maybe we'll get there, or maybe the fourth one of them. We'll eventually go to it once we get through all this type stuff. But the thing is that the kingdom without the G is a sanctuary for them to flee, to come to somewhere safe, so they're not going to be killed by their own people, because many of them need somewhere. They need a safe place. We know this. The biggest reason we're doing this for them. It's for the Eric Dubais. Eric, get out of there, man. We are your brother. We're not your enemy. I might say you're a cunt because you're acting like a cunt now. That doesn't mean you're a cunt for the rest of your life. Stop fucking lying. Stop doing it. Why are you trying to harm your brothers and sisters? We're your brother. Why are you trying to harm these children we care for? Because that's what you stand for right now. Now, are you going to continue living with the gun at your head, under the pressure of what you sold out to? Or are you going to break away and turn against them all and set an example to all the others to do it too? What about you, David Icke? You're going to do it. What about you, Jordan Maxwell? You're going to do it. What about you, Mark Pazio? You're going to have the guts to do it, because they're all scared to death, these people, mate. They're frightened, like, unbelievably, these people. That's why they run. That's why they don't debate. That's why they don't talk with us, because it exposes everything in plain sight to them. Right? It's simple. That we go where truth takes us. We don't own it. We're not their master. We're not better than them. We're just trying to end this nightmare so everyone can have their freedom back. The other thing about kingdom is that the mudroom is the baseball bats we use to smash the trauma out of us so we stop lying. Now, we've got so many, Fiona and I can give you so many examples of how this lie works and how it destroys our groups. Because we bring the ego in and we bring the emotion in and we start talking as if we come from an authority. But all we're doing is intellectualizing the trauma, which is, again, what happened last night. You know, we can talk about what happened last night, where we have one of our friends who starts getting worried about a credit card because the credit card got maxed out by someone else. And the thing is that we're saying
for the group, for the group. No.
But what people don't get is that the bigger picture, what we dream for, is that such that we use the whole of the system. And the collective thing of everything, from the willing and dealing that this man does, and the willing and dealing she does, and the willing and dealing we all do, brings everything together. Because why? We are listening to the voices of our ancestors as we listen to the voices of our own conscience as them. Because when a dog comes and sniffs you, the dog then has the choice to decide what to do about what the information is presented to the dog. Now, the same thing happens to us. When we use our conscience, we sense the information, and then we have the free will choice to decide how we're going to respond. What are we going to do? What are we going to create from this information? Now, mostly, everyone is in the intellectualized state of the trauma. So they are disconnected from the big picture. They can't sense the big picture of kingdom where we are operating in. And so they come with their heads spinning with all kinds of jargon, got no relevance to what we're doing. Now, we've got to keep smashing with baseball bats. Like we're saying, you realize how the demon just took you over again. You lost connection. You didn't see the big picture here. And what happens, it's like, you know, for us, we are like sailing a ship across the seas, building a bridge to get out of the system and return to kingdom. We can't have more than one captain running the ship. It doesn't mean that we're a cult or a sect. We're just simply working with the dream, with the intention to set everyone free from this in this life. So no one is underneath Arthur or underneath Fiona. But if you don't sense our intentions, you will think that we're no different to others out there. You'll think that we're just like them. The difficulty is we're talking in English. We're explaining the constructs of English. We're working with the systems of English. That is the internet, the recording studio, the equipment we use in the garden, and shovels and picks and all the things that we do. The thing is, if people don't sense the bigger intention, if they don't sense it, they won't see that what we're dreaming for is to let all this go in this life. But it's a transition, and it's gradual. And that we have to do one thing at a time. And you have to remain calm, very centered and focused on the bigger picture, and deal with what comes as it happens. And you've got to be like the dog who sniffs you. You're sniffing everything around you of all your ancestors, and you're listening to the collective voice as our free will. We are responsible for what we do. They're not telling us what to do. They're just inspiring us of the information around us, like the dog who sniffs us. What are you going to do, dog? What are we going to do, Arthur? What are you going to do, Fiona? How are we going to move? How are we going to progress? So our intention is in creating a dream that is the bridge to get us across from the system back to kingdom. In doing it, we have smashed everything to do with the ego and the emotion. We have smashed the intellect. We've smashed the I and the all-seeing I and the self-centeredness. We've smashed this bullshit where we start bringing up all this crap, worrying about credit cards being maxed and worrying about this and that and this. It just, we lose sight of the big picture. And when we lose sight of the big picture, we lose sight of us. They'll lose sight of us. They won't even see this man. They won't realize what this man's been doing for the last 11 years in this dream. They won't sense what this woman's been doing. They won't even sense all the ancestors who lived and created all the mountains. They created everything. Because they're lost in their fucking heads. Deeply traumatized.
Lost in fantasy.
They suddenly think, we got the answer. We're going to lead. So if we do that, we split. And we break off. And we go off in different directions. Right? What we do, we let them go. Go for it. But we're not going there. Right? We stick to our guns. We stick to what we sense. We stick to that. And we keep working with it because everything's been working for us all the time now. We're still alive. They've tried to kill us, tried to kidnap us, arrest us. They've tried to do all kinds. They've tried to cripple us economically in the system. Here we are. And things are growing. There's more of us here now and more involved. And we've got to protect the group, so the group doesn't get undermined by this kind of satanic practice. So, you know, this is a lot more than people realize. People think that, oh, we're going to go back to freedom. Let me tell you, to face the nightmare of this, you've got to face the nightmare of you. Each of us got to face this nightmare. And if you don't confront this nightmare and make sense of it, we can't bring peace to stop it having an influence on us. And in doing that, we lose sight of the bigger picture of hey, this man's been at it for 11 years. I'm not claiming exclusivity or privilege that I'm the only one or the best. The dream this man lives for is a true paradise to set everyone free from it. I've taken on the responsibility of that dream. Right? Now, if you don't sense this man's intention, you won't see the big picture. And if you lose yourself in the bullshit in your head, what happens? You only see this man in the light of everything else you see out there in the shit, because that's what we do when we're superimposing all the hooding, demonic shit, right? And they won't see how much this man spent all these in the system of time contemplating on this, adapting to as things come along, making changes, correcting things, but not giving up, staying focused on what the outcome will be, because that was why we started the Kingdom Dream, you see. So we've gathered wisdom. We've developed skills. We've gotten really good at it. We've been at the coalface of this. There's no luck that we've become these kind of people. We practiced it. Most people don't, because they're still waking up and going to bed to the clock of the ritual of the system in the dumbed down state. They don't know what it is that we're really doing. So we don't want people coming following us to be blind to what we're doing. We work on them to make them conscious, help them become conscious in their way, so they can sense what's going on. Otherwise, they can't move on with us. We've got to let them go. We burn our bridges with them. We actually burn people off. We spend more time burning people off than letting people in, because we can see the danger that they represent of destruction to the dream. No different to letting another man come in running the program of Satanism and bring in the system, and then every other man trapped in it and making it become what it is today.
But having said that, just what you said may sound a little like we, you know, like have a vetting process. Not at all. If someone says, hey, I love what Kingdom's about, I want to come and get involved. Whoever, whatever, doesn't matter who, sure, the door's open.
Yeah.
And when we say we're burning off, when we stick to the guns of what this is about and stick to the truth of what is it about, if their heart's not truly in it, we don't have to say, hey, you've got to leave. We never do that. They soon go themselves, because it's not comfortable for them, and it's not enjoyable, because it's not what they thought. They still were too much in the fantasy of what they thought Kingdom was, rather than in the reality. So they go themselves. So I just want to make sure the listeners, it's not like we have this vetting program. Oh, you can come in. No, you have to leave. Yeah. Not at all. The door is open to whoever is inspired and wants to come. It doesn't matter what your situation or your background or your circumstances. That's fine. But we just find that so long as we stay really true and focused on what this is about, if it's not for them at this moment, they'll be gone very fast. And amazing how people sometimes turn up out of the blue. You know, you get some people you talk to for ages before they come. Some people literally, bang, they suddenly, you talk to them one week, they're there the next day, and they're still here. You know, it literally, it's amazing. And there was something I wanted to say, and I've just forgotten.
No, I'll go on. Maybe I'll treat it. The thing I'm getting at is that we set up the environment for them to destroy themselves and leave. Yeah. They do it to themselves, but we make sure it happens that way, because that's what they want. They're just too scared to say it. A lot of people come and they can't really say to you to your face what they're really thinking. So we let them do that. We give them the opportunity where they use it as an excuse to leave, you see. And because we want minimal battles, minimal everything. And so we do it in many ways. Now, to deal with the system, to create a kingdom in this mess, if you don't have these wisdom skills and you don't learn from people like us, if you haven't practiced it yourself, learning how to deal with this, because we've dealt with this for so long now, that we're at the coalface of this. You know, it's like women who break up in marriages and they go to other women who have come from broken marriages to get advice about what it is to keep a marriage together. You don't do that. You go and find an old couple that have been together for 50 years and happy, and you go and talk to them and find out what it is. You don't go and listen to broken down slaves to make sense right? We could give you so many stories of men have been destroyed by women in marriages or vice versa. And you see how this despicable inculcation practices work out, right? Because people seek validation for the brutality of what they're doing to their partners and the lying that goes with it, because it's all lying. They just fucking lie and lie and lie. You know, this man knows lying because this man spent most of this man's life fucking lying.
Yeah.
I was a brilliant liar. And we're still working at it. But the thing is that one of the reasons why this man pulled out of the system in 2006 was to focus on the dream of kingdom and everything that's stopping it and working. What is the system and why? So this man Fiona provided me with all the support in the system. So she kept the contracts. She has all the obligations of the system. She's still in the system. All the children are still in the system. They're all contracted with everything. She provides me with a roof over this man's head. She provides me with access to the internet because she pays for the internet. She does everything. This man's got nothing. But I'm still compromised because this is my family. Yeah. I'm not free yet. The only way I will ever be truly free is when my whole family and everyone around me and the wider community are free. When they're truly free of this, I have freedom. Until that happens, I've got nothing. If anyone around me is a slave and trapped, I'm a slave trapped in spite of me being out of the system. So I spent all these years at the coalface just concentrating and learning everything about this and developing the skills and then applying these skills to pave a way that is that bridge that gets us out. That's the only difference between this man and others. I am not sold out. This man is not sold out to Freemasonry. I'm not here to recreate another system. I'm not here for people to worship this man. I'm not here for you to glorify me or her. We're not into it. We want to be forgotten, to be honest. We'd rather be in a hammock in paradise and be completely forgotten as if we never even existed. That's what we'd be very happy about that. Yeah. But we're not stupid. We're vigilant and very discerning in the meantime. And it's staggering how deep the trauma goes in our brothers and sisters.
Oh, it's shocking. This morning I was on shock when I was making my video outside. I said, I gotta admit, guys, I'm totally blown away by the amount of satanism on us, on their everyday life, and people are blind, and they're led by the blind. Anyway, we could keep going for hours and hours. I don't want to hold you too long. It's almost 2 hours and a half. We can keep going again next Tuesday, unless you want to add something else, Archer.
I just wanted one quick thing. I remembered what I was going to say. And in fact, those involved in the corruption that took our house and everything, in fact, did us a great favor, because we had to let go of all that fear of, oh, there's no money. I haven't got this, I haven't got that security of owning a house. And it really taught us to, you know, okay, so what, we've spent all the money this week, oh, well, never mind. And yet most people who come are still really caught in that, oh, I've got to have the money for this, and I've got to have the rainy day collection, and I've got to have this fund, and I can't let go of my house. And yet when it's all ripped away from you, you really learn to just, well, either you panic and you fall apart and go into the victim thing, or you learn to go, you know what, guess what, we've had months, you know, a few years when we were very, very poor, but we've learned that, you know what, we're still here, the sun still shines, we're still alive, we managed to make things together. And if we don't get into an emotional victim state about it, what we need is always available when we need it. And what we need, not maybe what we want or desire or that have agreed for or lust for, but what we need comes along just when we need it. And we've really learned to let go of all that fear of abandonment, of non-security and all that sort of stuff. So it was a real gift in a way that they gave us.
Let's go a bit further this before we just disconnect here. We learnt, or we practiced letting go of the inculcation that was working on us, which is the intentions of all the Freemasons that defined our slave life in the system, and whatever came of the prophecies that we fulfilled of that fake life. So it doesn't matter if it was hardships or benefits, rewards, whatever. It's all self-fulfilling prophecy. So what we've learned to do, what this man has been trained to do, is sense the voices of the intellect that's working through every man collectively, because the screw and the nail, the architect and the carpenter, the house and the foundations, the land titles of the government, all that collective is the information set to the background that defines the fake reality. But with it, the fake emotion the fake attitude and behavior of each man who's trapped in it. And that is what's brought to the table of everyone who comes to us. They bring this shit with them. And it's up to them how much and how effort they're going to put in to let it go. Because if they don't reconnect with the sense of their ancestors, of the dream of life all around them, they'll still be lost and reliant on the storytelling that is the compelling emotion. Oh, we can't have critical. We got to be out of this. Oh, we got to be like this. They won't get it. That is demonic possession in practice, controlled by Freemasons remotely to manipulate the victims of those who believe in this shit to destroy a group. We see this, so we let these, if they want to go down that road, we let them go. We let them go. That's fine. Go back in the system and run those routines there. But we're not going to have those routines running with us because we're about any of this. So going further than this, we learn to adapt in the moment, by the moment, with what is presented to us, like the dog who wanders around smelling. And each moment there's another smell, another lot of information. Okay, in our case, there's so many ancestors talking to us. And we listen to that. And we respond and we build our real lives out of that. Now, the stress and the trauma we go through in doing this, because we're in the system, dealing with phone call after phone call after phone call of people who are coming, wanting to be rescued from their dilemmas, from people who contact us through Facebook and YouTube and through emails, which we get still lots of traffic, through the videos we put out there, the people come in and stay with us. The work, the effort we put in to remove the demonic energy out is like house cleaning. If people come into your house and make a mess, someone has to clean it. The demonic energy that people bring into a dream, like a kingdom dream of paradise, we have to clean it. You've got to remove all that energy out of it that doesn't belong there. So our bodies get used to drain all this shit out. And it puts a huge toll on us. Now, we're not victims. We don't complain about it, but we pay a price. We sacrifice. We suffer. We truly suffer for this shit. But we suffer for the dream for our brothers to return to paradise. No, we don't suffer to follow us or fucking live under us or worship us because we got some kind of wonderful kingdom dream. It's not about that. So we are house cleaners to the lie. We come in and remove all the demonic energy that comes in. But you can't just do it. You've got to go and confront your brother and smash them with the truth, like we do with Eric Dubai. Come out, Eric. Come out of fucking hell, man. Come back to paradise and let's talk. If you're on the same page, let's talk the dream of kingdom together. Kingdom is not ours. Kingdom is dream of life. It's paradise. It's man's true sense, not defined by another man inside your fucking head. So it goes into this bigger picture. So we're dealing with there's a war here. The war is all the voices talking to man to build the house in the system, to build the fake life. The man who picks up the screw and the nail, who holds the saw, who is the carpenter, who works with the architect and the government agencies. All these voices and all the voices that ever spoke to this man since the brainwashing started is in the man who holds the screw in his hand, who thinks he's got a fucking answer. And somehow he knows how he's going to fix this problem. The man's fucking blind as a bat. Got no fucking idea at all. Because you can't rely on all these voices that define you and get you out of this nightmare. You've got to step out from all of it. This is the real work now. And we come with baseball bats, man. We come with absolute baseball bats, because if we don't hit people and make sense of it, if they can't sing the song of their ancestors through the heart and through everything, we don't have a kingdom dream here. We just got the system dream under another guise unfolding before our eyes, and only us to blame for letting it spread amongst us, to spread to our children, to spread to everything. And this is what David Icke and all these people are relying on. They're relying on this continuation of the site program lie, so that we all sing, rejoice, the New World Order that's brought us so close to the truth. The 1,000 golden year reign of prophecy they planned in the Bible, of this business plan, because the Bible is this business plan of this prophecy in practice. It truly is. It's a forecast. And all the Masons follow it across the recorded ages to meet the grand architect who dreamt it, because they're all the descendants or all the lackeys who work for the descendants of this fucking idiot to make us all stupid and dumb.
And delusional.
Yeah, exactly. So what we're trying to point out is that unless you sense the true intention of a man's heart, your head will be spinning and projecting it over this man to define what you think this man is, or what this man thinks you are, or what Fiona is. Now, we learned together. We had maybe 4 or 5 instances in our last 11 years of separating because the trauma was so powerful. One time this man already packed up and walked off on his own, saying goodbye. This little boy going, nobody loves him. This is how it was. It's true.
I did the same. I had believed.
You know, the pathetic, how pathetic we are.
Yeah, what pathetic.
But she stayed strong for me. She didn't burn me off. I stayed strong for her and didn't burn her off. And we allowed us to bring up all our shit. And still whatever. We still argue. But all our shit comes up. And we argue and we look at it. And we look at it. And we look at it. And we try to make sense of it. Because you've got to know what you're dealing with until we work at which one. Does it belong with all the voices of the people that is in the system, which is the Borg, the collective of the Borg? Everyone's plugged into the Borg mentality. Or are we those people who are unplugged from the Borg, and now we're reconnecting with the true uniqueness of man, the real individual of the man, not the individual, the real individual of the man, who's part of the magnificent dream of life where we're all together anyway, and we don't have to force each other to be together under any construct or concept, and everything we need is already there. The air's there, we're breathing, the sun's still shining, the truth is still there. We've got it all, we don't doubt it. And so we're not compelled by emotion anymore to control situations by that emotion because we still doubt what's happening around us. We're learning that. We're learning to find more peace and more calm.
Well,
more peace.
That's great. That's great. Sir Archer, I have to learn to say it properly. It's my French accent, what you want me to do. So we're going to see each other again next week, for sure. We're going to be alive and well, and we're going to be here next week.
Well, we're still alive now. We'll still be alive then.
That's it.
Nothing's changed.
So thank you, everybody, for being here. There was a lot of people in the chat. It was crazy, but I'm trying to be in the chat and follow you at the same time, but I prefer concentrate my energy on understanding and following what you say and really taking it in and after making sense of it. But I thank everybody for being here and listening to your message. And, you know, each one, teach one. Put away the false pride, rise and shine, speak truth. That's my message. And with that, we're going to build the dream of life, and we're all going to rise and shine one day and change this freaking world because something has to be done. And we're doing it. So rise and shine. Never give up.
Back to the paradise, creating it. We can't just talk about it. We're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it.
Then otherwise nothing's happening. We're just coming to the next video for the next upload of nonsense.
We are changing the world. We are changing the world.
Living it. Good on you, mate.
Thanks, Yanni.